Hello, wrestling fans. Are you sick of me yet? Are you so desperately sick of the fact that I've been on your screens 2 nights in a row for hours upon hours upon hours? I kind of hope so, just to spite you a little bit. But at the same time, we are back for a Sunday night pay per view, which is so strange. I've never had a Sunday night pay per view before. And it's not a SummerSlam, it's not an Extreme Rules, it's not a Money in the Bank, it's an NXT takeover on a Sunday to make room for the fact that SummerSlam was on a Saturday. And what a pay per view it's actually looking like it's being, because not only have you got great wrestling matches, this may be the swan song of this current NXT. This evolution of NXT may not survive to tell the tale of what comes after. And that's why we're talking about potentially the last matches in NXT of Adam Cole, the last matches in NXT of Karrion Kross, potentially the last matches in NXT for more, because you know there is a hell of a lot of people who could potentially be in that position. Thank you very much for the follow, Hoss0312. Thank you very kindly for that. We are live, we are on Twitch, and we are ready for the show. And we're not going to do it alone. As this NXT takeover, we will be following our usual NXT takeover tradition of having someone join us, someone who you'll all be very familiar with from the chat, our very own Ed Fries. Ed, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's been a busy day, but it's been a good day, and it's not going to get any slower. I feel like Tom on a Friday now.
Oh, you're getting it now. Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, worked all day and came home, ate some dinner, and now I'm doing a watch along, and then I have to do reacts.
Of course, yeah. You will be doing the post show for Love Wrestling, won't you?
I will indeed.
You get all the fun jobs. All the fun jobs. I'm going to retweet your tweet. I think that's the way to start.
Home, ate some dinner, and now I'm doing a watch along. Didn't mute the stream. Hold on.
That's your own fault. Not paying attention. Sean Gardner is already asking questions, saying who would be Raquel's next challenger. Basically, at this point, anybody. Basically, anybody. There is a whole lot of people on the NXT roster who could step up, and there are no storylines right now with any of them. Sean, is there anything set up for Raquel to go next? That's the question that we've got to ask ourselves. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to pass it on to Ed, who's our NXT expert. So, Ed, what do you reckon is next for Raquel?
Expert.
More than I.
If Raquel wins, then the next challenger for Raquel Gonzalez is really up in the air. It could be Frankie Monet. It could be Xia Li. It could be Saray. Like, there's limitless challengers for her because that women's division is so stacked. But at the same time, I mean, it's not unfathomable that she loses tonight. As much as I think Dakota Kai is going to the main roster, as much as I think she's going to the main roster and she's losing tonight, it's not unfathomable that Triple H just says, screw it, we'll figure out and we'll deal with it, and puts Dakota over.
I can't support that line of thinking. I just can't. I get where you're coming from, but it would be a very strange choice. Now, admittedly, I think Dakota Kai is very deserving of being an NXT champion, but let's not forget that they've made this a developmental title again. So it's very much a case of Dakota Kai. I don't think she needs any further development, and I definitely see her being plucked from NXT and moved away.
Now, speaking of something, I just want to bring up something because me and you briefly mentioned it in a Twitter chat we had earlier.
Yeah.
The Ariel Helwani interview. That quote coming out about NXT and about Triple H being the one who's spearheading how this rebirth of NXT is going has me very interested as to what's going to happen. Now, Nick Khan's obviously in charge of it, but he's leaving Triple H to make the moves. That's a smart idea. That interview, I started watching it. It's a very interesting interview, and if you haven't seen it, go find it. Because Ariel Helwani starts this interview by saying, we're going to lay out the bare bones facts. You used to be my agent. I'm going to spoil that one for you right now. That's how he got that job. That's how he got that interview. It's because him and Nick Khan it's a professional relationship, but it's obviously personal.
Yeah.
And he got to ask questions that I can't imagine Vince okayed that. Like the questions that were in that interview. Based on the two quotes I've seen, there's no chance Vince okayed those questions.
Vince is one of those where he sees the value in doing things from outside of wrestling to draw attention away from wrestling. You talk about getting that huge CM Punk pop and all that jazz. I think the fact that we got Nick Khan actually in an interview will steal a lot of that thunder. But that's just my personal opinion. I'll continue on that just when I'm doing a catch up. Welcome, Chase Paw Patrol. Thank you for joining us for a second night in a row. Welcome to the show. And Sean has asked, who is the babyface in the feud, Raquel or Dakota? Raquel Gonzalez is the babyface in the feud. Dakota Kai's gone full heel, and you can always tell when she's heel because her hair comes down. That's a general rule for Dakota Kai. If her hair is tied up, she's a face. If her hair comes down, she's a heel. Pretty standard for her. I don't think she ever formally turned face, to be completely honest. She just did a lot of smiling and pretended not to. When it comes to this interview with Nick Khan, and you'll have to correct me anytime I say Tony Khan, because I have a habit of doing that. When it comes to this particular interview, I think that's taken a lot of attention. And I have not listened to all of it yet, because to be completely honest, I've been sort of a zombie all day, having got to sleep at about 7 a.m. last night. So it's one of those. I'm looking forward to actually getting into the full detail of that interview. Because I do, 5 minutes. Yeah, I do feel like there's going to be a lot there, a lot to unpack. And it's just going to be really, really handy to actually get into the individual details. From what you're saying about Triple H and what I've seen, I know some clips on Twitter have been taken out of context already. But from what I've seen, Triple H has kind of been thrown under the bus a little bit here, or set up to fail, if you will. Because I don't entirely believe, and certainly the information I've had, is that Triple H is not in charge of the change of NXT. Triple H has been told, this is what we want from you, go and make it work. That's not the same as being in charge or spearheading a big change. What did you make of that particular conversation?
I think it's interesting. Nick Khan, obviously, from the small bits I've seen, I saw a small clip that was picked up by somebody to be clipped in a specific way to make it sound a specific way. That yes. Nick Khan was letting Triple H kind of spearhead this because Triple H birthed NXT, so to speak. And he even says that. He's like, Triple H has been running this brand for a while. He changed it from what it was to what it is.
Yes.
And he gives Triple H credit for that. But it's also, and again, I'll go back to it. This man's a sports agent who was pivotal in getting the Fox deal. That was the last thing he did before coming to this company, was get WWE that Fox deal. Yeah. And he even spells that out when he talks about, Ariel asks him the question of, what was the embryonic stages of you working for Vince McMahon after leaving CAA? And he talks with, it was the rights deals. He was the one who spearheaded working the rights deals. And then after that, he went to Triple H's birthday party, and everything started from there.
Which is basically how these big deals always work. And it's one of the most confusing things in the world. As a guy who literally has never sat at any top table and is basically on the ground level, trying to work with people on the ground level, happily engaging with everyone at the ground level, it's always baffling to me how many times you get the situation whereby you have to listen to the big company executives who you'd think are, going to the big business parties. Just know, I went to a barbecue and ended up with a 6-figure job. Yeah, sure. Why don't I have more famous friends? Was it Sheamus who essentially became a WWE champion because Triple H saw him working out?
I think so. I think
that's
one of them.
That's an experience. Larry says, why sometimes on a stream do you get the option to change resolution? Others are stuck at 720. I think that's a Twitch thing, to be completely honest. I know that as you become higher up in Twitch, as it were, I get to partner levels, you get certain higher resolutions. But at the same time, I think a lot of it's down to my technology and the limitations we've got. The internet here is pretty good. StreamYard has some limitations. I think it intentionally limits it to 720, to be completely honest, because I don't pay for the higher package. Whereas a spoiler warning, for example, comes out of Streamlabs, and that goes very, very high quality indeed. Sean says, has Aaliyah been called up on what show will Dakota be on once she's called up? Aaliyah has been moved sideways. I wouldn't necessarily say she's been called up. I don't have a lot of faith in WWE handling Aaliyah, because Aaliyah has never really been used in any way, shape, or form. Although, Ed, you'll know more about that than me. But when talking about Dakota, looking at SmackDown right now, they just got Becky Lynch. They've still got Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair. They've got Tegan Nox, Shotzi Blackheart. Raw needs women, and I think Dakota Kai, Nikki Ash is a feud that's coming very, very soon. Ed, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree. Aaliyah, it's a famous quote from another British wrestling company that I used to watch on the daily, but it's a nice phrase, so I'm going to steal it. Aaliyah's been taken and put back in her broom closet after having some time on NXT television. You have to remember that when you talk about how long Aaliyah's been there, this is the one thing I always try to remember.
Yeah.
During the beginning of WrestleMania 30 week, when they launched the WWE Network, one of the shows that kind of launched with that beginning period was a show called Breaking Ground, in which Aaliyah was on that show trying to figure out her character. You know who else was on that show? Sasha Banks, Sasha Banks, Bailey, Baron Corbin. Like, those three have been on the main roster for years at the top of their game. And Aaliyah's just now getting out of NXT by pure dumb luck, by the way. Because she wasn't doing great in the Robert Stone brand.
No, I do feel sometimes the Robert Stone brand is there to pick up people who maybe need a helping hand and maybe support them to get to the next level. Aaliyah, for me, I can't tell you anything about her. Now, I know that I'm not a regular NXT viewer, so I wouldn't necessarily know anything about her, but I can't tell you anything. Literally not a thing. I often forget her name. That's the situation that we're in. Literally, I know nothing about this person. Can you tell me anything about her character, Ed?
She's basically pretending to be what they call bougie. Now, I'm a white boy. I have no clue what this means, but she's fashionable. She wants to be dressed in fashionable clothes. She acts like a mean girl. It's a very basic character. Her
Okay, she's
in-ring
Carmella.
style, she's a lesser version of Carmella. No offense to her, but in the ring, she's a lesser version of Carmella. On the screen,
Right.
she's kind of a lesser version of Carmella. She basically, to reiterate what she is, look at Frankie Monet and then think of whatever your knockoff brand of that is. So for people in London and in England, I would say Tesco. Whatever the Tesco version of a good name brand is, that's what Aaliyah is.
I see. Starling says, Nick said WWE won't sign independent wrestlers no more and will develop their own current wrestlers from scratch. Now, I'm waiting to actually listen to this myself because I don't believe he would have said that. I think it's more likely that what he's actually said is that they will be focusing less on independent wrestlers. I think that's more likely. Now, admittedly, I have had some news from the tryouts. I've shared a bit of news from the tryouts, and the big takeaway is that the money being offered in these tryouts is nothing compared to what it was. I think that's a large part of the main change there, because bringing in independent wrestlers, you're going to be paying them quite a bit unless they go through NXT UK, where NXT UK, they are paying practically nothing. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be at the end of independent wrestlers being signed. They'll still want certain ones, but I do think they're going to be developing a lot more of their own people anyway, because then at least they can formally say, yeah, AW stole our talent.
I want to think another part of that is, and Nick Khan's a very smart man. You won't hear him say the word won't and ever or never. I don't think you're going to ever hear this man use those words, because you don't get into the world of business he's been in without being able to make sure that you can back yourself out of anything that you say. That being said, he knows that perception is reality, and right now he knows that he's made perception bad. By doing his job, he's put a bad perception out there. So he knows that while, yes, he might say, we expect to sign less or, fewer independent wrestling stars. I think he's saying that because he knows fewer independent wrestling stars are going to want to come work for them.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is confirmation bias. We know what's happening already. We're just letting you know ahead of time. And a lot of this, for me, seems to be like it's putting paid to rumors. Basically come out and saying, okay, there's a lot of stuff going out there right now. I want to put an end to that and basically say, okay, this is the story. This is what's happening. And even if it's not entirely accurate, they take back the narrative of an interview like this. Diamond Dave Show has asked a question. Are they pushing Triple H out? I don't want to let you take the lead here.
I don't think so. I think they're trying to give Triple H some reins that he has to hold on to, but I don't think they're trying to push him out. I don't think Vince would ever let anybody come into his company and push his son-in-law out of the company. Vince is a smart man, and Vince knows that Triple H is a smart man. Vince and Triple H obviously see wrestling in a different way.
Yeah.
especially now. And I think Vince has people in his ear telling him that for the company to be as successful as Nick Khan wants it to be, Triple H has to run NXT slightly differently for them.
There's no question of that. I completely agree with all of that. And I think it's worth pointing out that Triple H is not just the guy in charge of NXT. He's also the guy in charge of the global expansion. He also works heavily within talent relations. Triple H's value to the company genuinely cannot be measured, but a lot of people have decided to define it as, okay, he's the guy in charge of NXT, and they want rid of him and all that jazz. Yes, there's been some issues. There's been some butting of heads. We've been talking about them a lot on Spoiler Warning, for example. But at the same time, it's still Triple H. He has still built an incredibly marketable and powerful brand that has fueled most WWE main roster recruitment. I think the only exception of the last 5-10 years has been AJ Styles, who hasn't at least spent some time in NXT. Triple H has built the future. He genuinely has. It's just questions about whether or not this is a future that the WWE want, and I think that's the big change that's coming. Triple H unlikely to go anywhere.
I would say the one person you didn't he didn't spend a lot of time in NXT, nor did he really spend any there. But Braun Strowman did fall under that same umbrella before he was released. Because while he was there as a rosebud, I don't think he spent any real time on television in NXT that I can remember.
A lot of that was down to Bray. Bray Wyatt just really wanted to work with Braun Strowman. Something about the two, they just gelled immediately. It was a very strange moment. Sean says, who could be Charlotte's next challenger? Hopefully not Rhea or Nikki. I think it's probably going to be Rhea or Nikki. Yeah. There's not even a punchline there.
I would imagine it's one of the two of them. I'm hoping for Shayna, I'll be honest. I think Shayna's built for this now. She's had some time away from the screen. She's, as far as I can tell, she's well liked backstage by the talent. I assume she's well liked backstage by people in management, because I don't think she should have a person who ruffles feathers. So I could wholeheartedly see Shayna as a challenger for Charlotte.
I would like it to be Shayna. I think it's telling that we had a tag team match and Charlotte's tag team partner was Nia Jax. I think there's something there. They just haven't really given us much of it yet. And I don't know if that something is going to be Shayna or if it's going to be Nia. I can't imagine it's going to be Nia because she's just naturally more of a heel than Shayna is. But we are where we are on that one. That Matt says, hey, it's the Tom pre-show. It is indeed, Matt. Welcome to the show, mate. And Bailey says, what will it take for Vince to reorganize the talent relations department? Too many old WWF guys with a lack of creative vision. This is a big question. What's it going to take is essentially Nick Khan to decide. Because at the moment, the big moves are being held by Nick Khan, not Vince McMahon. I know even in the interview, Nick Khan was very clear that Vince McMahon still makes all of the big decisions. That's the part I have the most trouble believing. Genuinely. When you look at this talent relations department, yes, it was built by Vince. But Nick Khan's the guy releasing people, and he's kept them all so far. So I do feel the return of John Laurinaitis probably had a lot more to do with Nick Khan than Vince McMahon. Ed, your thoughts?
Talent relations gets a bad rap. They really don't. They don't make these decisions. These decisions are made by people way higher than them. Talent relations just has the unfortunate. And again, this is, now granted, this is me looking from the outside in, listening to Bruce Pritchard. So for what it's worth, this is what I understand. Bruce Pritchard says, we get told these are the things you have to do today. Go ahead and do them. So while John Laurinaitis is writing up the sheets and making the phone calls and saying, hey, it's budget cuts, bye, click, obviously that's not how he makes the phone call, but we've heard that call before.
We have
some people who said that that's exactly the call they got. I doubt that's the call they got, but for what it's worth, I mean, talent relations gets a bad rap, but they're not making these calls. There's no reason to redo talent relations. I think there's a lot of people in this industry that really respect Johnny Ace. He's a guy who's been in the ring. He's a guy who's done this position before. The boys and girls respect him in the locker room. People in management respect him. So I see no reason why they should be redoing talent relations. Now, there are other portions that need to be reorganized, and I would go with creative as a whole.
Yeah.
But I think talent relations you can leave alone.
I think creative definitely needs a refresh. I agree with everything you're saying there about talent relations. We are currently building up to our first kickoff show match. Trey Baxter on his way out, ready to be. It looks like getting a bit battered. Bless him, he's not got long. But when it comes to talent relations, I do think they have one of the hardest jobs in wrestling because their job is to deliver the bad news, but they have no say in the bad news. And I like the Johnny Ace impression. If I still had my really raspy voice, I'd go for it. But essentially, Johnny Ace is always a good one to do an impression of because you just imagine a guy who smokes 90 a day. Just his throat is shot, his lungs are dead, and he just talks about talent relations and making sure that everybody knows that this is a budgetary concern. And that's the best I've got.
And he says people power. Don't forget, he has to say people power.
People power.
But, congratulations on Johnny Ace. He found the love of his life, and the love of his life just happens to be the mother of the Bellas. Like, you can luck into some really good things when you're Johnny Ace.
Yeah, that's a thing. And one little correction I do have to say as well. You said the boys and the girls respect him. The boys definitely do. That's the correction that I'm leaving there.
Okay.
Girls not so much. You don't need to apologize. Girls not so much. That's one of those things that sneak out of the WWE every now and then. Just a lot of women very upset about having to work with Johnny Ace again.
Okay.
Very upset. Rich Holland is being backed up by Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne is not booked for a match tonight, and apparently the news has gone quiet, but apparently does not have a contract much longer. Do you think Pete Dunne's sticking about?
I don't see Pete Dunne leaving. Pete Dunne during the pandemic, and as they came out of it in the NXT UK pandemic, he was there helping write television with Triple H and stuff.
Yeah.
So I would wholeheartedly imagine that he is set. It's really up to him whether or not he wants to stay or not. I think he's about to be pushed into a big feud if Samoa Joe wins. I think we're about to see some big things for Pete Dunne.
I would love that.
I was just saying they've been teasing it. They've been teasing it since Joe came back. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Joe will need a new opponent, and that's a very fair comment. Frankie says, with SmackDown getting Becky and Brock now, do you think USA will give WWE a hard time about it? Will Raw get any big names to even out the rosters? They will. The draft is coming, and I suspect that Becky and Seth will be heading over again. We also have to look at a lot of people. I don't think Becky and Brock are long for SmackDown. I've got to be completely honest. I just don't see that happening. The connection, as it were, just isn't quite there from where I'm sitting. From this connection and the overall connection between them, I just don't necessarily think that Brock is going to be long-term for SmackDown because Brock screams Raw to me. Whereas Becky, I just don't think there's much she can do on SmackDown right now. But that's just my opinion. And honestly, when it comes to the people on SmackDown, I think Edge will be going to Raw, but that's not really a full-timer. Roman definitely won't be leaving. I don't think Sasha's going to be leaving. SmackDown won't have anything skimmed off the top. Raw mostly will be bolstered by NXT call-ups from where I'm sitting. Matt says, I also have trouble believing that Vince has 100% of the say on talent also. I wouldn't say it's a big thing about him not having 100% of the say. It's whether he acts on it. Vince is still very much in control. It's whether he acts on it. That's the big question here. That was indeed a very quick match. Rich Holland destroying Trey Baxter, just absolutely destroying him.
Well, Rich Holland has a big match coming up on NXT this week against Timothy Thatcher. So
they're building him strong. Nothing wrong with that. Megan says, hello all. Hello, Megan. I know it doesn't really matter, but Braun Strowman never wrestled on NXT TV. He did 5 house show matches, a dark match on NXT, and a dark match on main event before debuting on Raw. Thank you, Megan, as always, bringing all the facts in for us anytime. We even do a passing reference. You're there. You're ready. You're prepared. And I love it. It's fantastic. Starling says, when is the draft? Soon. That's basically all I've got.
We know it's probably late September, early October. It was originally planned for the middle of September. It seems unlikely that's going to be where it goes. And I just want to say something to Nine Lives Moxie. I love that you stayed yesterday during the raid. Unfortunately, you were asking questions about the main event. And unfortunately, the way Love Wrestling does things is we start from the beginning and go to the end. So I don't think you ever got your questions answered by the panel. So for that, I apologize.
It happens. That's the beauty of a show like mine. I can just drift in and out. But this is one of the reasons I don't do post-show stuff. Moxie says, I'm still shocked that Brock is back and he's facing Roman next month. I have not heard anything about him facing Roman next month. But he's back, and he looks very hairy. The question I've got, Ed,
Yo.
The question I've got, Ed,
Mm-hmm.
is about Finn Balor. If Brock is back and Brock is lined up for Roman Reigns, what the hell were we doing with Finn Balor?
I think Finn Balor gets a match at Extreme Rules because I think Brock is being saved for Saudi.
If it's safe for Saudi, that's a way away.
It's October. We're
Yeah,
in
you're
it.
right.
We're at
That's
the end
actually
of
not that
August.
long away, is
I
it?
was gonna say the Saudi show was confirmed for October. We're
Yeah,
in
that's...
August. We're about to be in September. So they do 1 month program with Finn saying, "I never got the match that Roman said he wanted to give me," and then they just move to Brock afterwards.
That does make sense. It does make sense. Brock made his appearance at SummerSlam. That doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't a one-off, at least for a little while he ironed out the contract. And then, of course, he beat the hell out of John Cena, which is always good. Brock Marsh says, do you think Io is getting called up soon? And if so, which brand suits her better? I do think she's getting called up soon, and I think she has to go to Raw. She suits SmackDown better, but I think she's going to Raw. Ed?
Wholeheartedly agree on both of those statements. Anything to get this girl away from Zoe Stark, because her and Zoe Stark together is cringe.
Is it? Why is it?
Oh my God. Okay, so you missed this. I'm on the War Report. We talk about this, and it's been great. It's been great because it's so awful. So her and Zoe Stark are now the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions.
Yes.
But they're not friends. And Zoe wants to be friends with Io. And Io's like, no, I've learned better than this. I don't want friends. I don't need friends. Last friend I had was Candice LeRae. We saw how that worked.
Yeah.
And I beat her up with a chair. So Zoe's now trying to get to know Io Shirai. So they started with going to a Japanese restaurant. And you can imagine how that ended up. So Zoe has no idea what Io's ordering because Io gets a Japanese waitress and orders in Japanese. And so she says, I'll have what she's having. And all the food comes out, and Io doesn't, and apparently Zoe Stark doesn't know what wasabi is. And so she takes things and she like throws it behind her off the plate, and it lands on the like glass wall and just sort of drips down. And then Io has this great conversation on the way out with the waitress. Yeah. So Zoe Stark comes up to her and she goes, do you guys know each other? And she's like, no, we just speak the same language. And it wasn't a language. And then so Zoe goes, oh, so you're Japanese. And she goes, no, we just understand each other. And so now Zoe wants to learn Japanese to understand Io, when that's not what Io was trying to get at. And that's not what the waitress was trying to say. And it's been awful and cringy, and I hate it.
But that's sometimes some of the best stories.
Yeah.
Jay Quick says, do you think this is going to be the last NXT takeover? No, I really don't. I think the current top layer of NXT, the top generation of this current level of NXT, will be skimmed off the top. That is what I expect to see. We'll still see takeovers fairly regularly. We just won't feature the top level talent at the moment in NXT because all of them are going. I don't see any reason that any of them would stick around, to be completely honest. There's no reason for it. Megan says, Finn, I reckon, was a plan B in case Brock said no. I do agree that he's not the placeholder to tide Roman over to the Saudi show. I'd imagine that's supposed to be now the placeholder to tide Roman over to the Saudi show, and that's very much exactly what it could be. Yes, she has corrected a bit later on. Brock was certainly a possibility of saying no. He originally did say no to coming back to SummerSlam when the original pitch, of course, was Bobby Lashley. But yeah, things change, and I'd imagine what changed was money. It's always money. It's always money. Moxie says, I've asked Tom, but Ed, who do you see winning, Brock or Roman? I've been asked this question so many times, and we don't even have a guaranteed match yet.
Roman. The answer to every question of who's going to win, insert name here or Roman, until it's WrestleMania and it's The Rock, it is going to be Roman. And even when it's WrestleMania versus The Rock, it's still going to be Roman. But until then, there's no question.
Thank you very much for the follow, C. Dunner87. Very much appreciate that. We are now to 335 follows over on Twitch and a very nice 689 over on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please do remember to click that like button. It does help us grow to a point where last night's SummerSlam coverage on YouTube alone had more than 1,000 people watching, which is absolutely ridiculous, absolutely incredible, and I cannot thank people more for that. At the moment, we are currently about to start NXT Takeover. Now, Ed, to go through the card, we know we're going to have Joe Kross. We know that's the NXT Championship match. Do you think that's going to main event? It's a tough one, isn't it?
I don't. If it were me, if I were the only one who got to make the choice, I would main event with the match that I want to see the most. So I would main event with Walter versus Dragunov.
Interesting. I did not
I
expect you
think
to say that one.
I think it's the best match you have on your card in ring wise. I think it's the best match, and I don't think anybody should have to follow it. So I think if you're gonna do this, I think you start with the 3 stages of hell, and I think you end with Walter Dragunov. But if it's NXT, I assume we're ending with Kross versus Joe.
I'm going the exact opposite. I'm going Volta Dragunov opening the show, and I'm going with 3 stages of hell closing the show. Because ultimately, while it's NXT, it's still WWE, and they know how to be self-indulgent. They really, really know how to be self-indulgent. That said, the last hype package on a pre-show is usually what main events, and that suggests it would be Kross versus Joe. Jay Quick says, where do you think they go with the SmackDown Women's title? I think Becky Lynch continues to wrestle against Bianca Belair for a couple of weeks and then loses it to a returning Sasha Banks and then moves to Raw. Ed, any thoughts?
Hopefully they figure out a story to explain last night, because that still has me irritated and irked. And
yeah,
from people who I know who were live from Love Wrestling at the crowd, it killed the crowd. It absolutely killed the crowd. The Becky return had everybody up and they popped. And then the moment that match ended, the crowd was like, huh? Yeah.
It would have been nice for her to make the appearance without necessarily going immediately for the championship. It's not something she needs.
Or have a triple threat match and have Carmella eat a pin.
Could also have worked. I would hope there's a storyline concept to it, but I don't necessarily have faith in that. Chill Out says you deserve it. Your streams have the right energy for us wrestling fans. I appreciate that, Chill Out. Very nice to hear. Thank you. Moxie says, you see what WWE did? I think Brock should have come out on Bobby. Should have just said, come back and beat Bobby for the belt. Brock said no.
Yeah, Brock wants nothing to do with Bobby Lashley, period, end of story.
J-Dub says, speaking of, I just got here and missed any info. Any news on where Sasha was? Nothing has come out as of yet. We were doing our own little investigation last night, and we were talking about images from a restaurant in Vegas. So it seems as though it's not COVID based on that. She was out and about, as it were. It also seems unlikely that she was necessarily going to be booked for SmackDown if she was actively in Vegas already doing ambassadorial duties. So it seems pretty much confirmed that she wasn't supposed to be at SmackDown. But at the same time, she was supposed to be at SummerSlam and she wasn't there. So it's very up in the air and honestly very difficult to say what's going on here. At the moment, nothing has been confirmed about Sasha Banks. Moxie says, I think Bianca's turning heel. You could see it in her face. I definitely don't see that. I see no reason for it. And honestly, I think it's more likely that Bianca will just be going up against the man as soon as this Friday, or at least getting in her face, because Bianca's got a lot more to deliver. We are so far about 3 minutes into an opening hype package, and I've got to say, these hype packages are getting longer and longer and longer. I always take the piss out of Raw and SmackDown for opening with a recap. We got that on SummerSlam as well. The show basically opened with a series of recaps. These opening hype packages are getting longer and longer because they're involving every single possible match. I do remember the days when it was just the top match would be really hyped up. Those days are gone.
Yeah, but those old days also gave us Tyler Breeze versus Jushin Thunder Liger. And it's still one of my favorite NXT. It's probably my favorite NXT match ever, because it's the only one that Jushin ever did for WWE.
Yeah. I saw a lot of his work in New Japan. And of course, I was
going to say, I learned about him in WCW.
That first match against Brian Pillman in WCW, I remember that quite fondly, because it was a half-hour opening match for the very first Nitro, and they just gave them the way to go. It was great fun. It was great fun. Megan says, I did find it odd that Nikki Bella said she wasn't allowed to go to SummerSlam despite being in Vegas. I think she may be kayfabing it. That's just my personal opinion, but I think she may be kayfabing it, because a lot of people suddenly thought, when she was asking about what she was going to wear, they thought she was going to be making an appearance. And I don't think that was necessarily what she was trying to suggest. Okay. We've got a collection of letters saying the last takeover. I don't think it's the last takeover, just to be clear. I do not think this is the last takeover. Bailey says, what does the takeovers do in terms of viewership versus the weekly shows? They do pretty well, but it's a case of they do about what the weekly shows do, because most people who watch NXT watch it on the, well, at least started watching it on the network. It used to be, when it was network exclusive, TakeOver had basically the exact same viewership. Basically the exact same. But it's not the case anymore because the WWE Network can host it, and some people, of course, don't have USA Network. So viewership sort of dropped slightly when it went off the network, but not to a noticeable degree. Even says, just hoping that Sasha will be on SmackDown to either confront Becky and Bianca or attack them both with her being a heel. She is, of course, as a heel, so certainly very, very possible. I honestly don't know what's happening, so I cannot begin to speculate. And Megan says, our opening match is Grimes versus Knight. Now, this is not their first match, so Ed, would you mind walking me through the story since the last takeover between Grimes and LA Knight?
So, since the last takeover, Grimes has been LA Knight, Eli Drake, LA Knight. Oh, I always get myself confused with those two names. LA Knight has had Graham and Grimes as his butler, and as you can see, he's taking off all the butler clothes and becoming himself again. And it was Ted DiBiase who came to him and said, I know you're a man of your word, but at some point, every man has to say when he's had enough.
Yeah.
And so now the match stipulation is Cameron Grimes, if he wins, he's the $1 million champion. If Cameron Grimes loses, he doesn't have to be the butler anymore, but Ted DiBiase is then LA Knight's butler.
Right, so I can see LA Knight winning them. That's just a comical image.
It's a great comical image.
Cameron Grimes seemed to have cleaned himself up quite a bit. I don't necessarily mean that he needed cleaning up. I just mean he's tidied his appearance. He's looking a bit more WWE.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my personal opinion on it. It's probably just that fact that his hair is tied instead of being free and wild. But
it might also be a Ted DiBiase thing. You know, you associate yourself with Ted DiBiase, and you take Image a touch more seriously than he used to, which is I'm no longer the redneck hillbilly character that I used to be.
Which, to be fair, that is exactly what his character was, and then suddenly he got rich. His storyline is very much a JBL storyline, a budget JBL storyline, but a JBL storyline nonetheless. Have you been impressed with LA Knight so far in his time in NXT? Because from the outside looking in, it looks like he's had one feud and it's just sort of dragging on.
LA Knight has been fantastic because LA Knight's best stuff is done outside of the ring. It's promos. It's being LA Knight. They've had video packages on weekly television, which are absolutely fantastic with, you know, LA Knight going golfing and Cameron Grimes being the star of these things and LA Knight just being the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
The man just knows how to make sure that he's in the spotlight in any time the camera's on and he's around it.
What I did forget was the whole NXT intangible thing. I've just seen that for LA Knight, the intangibles are cocky strength. Cocky strength.
Yeah, he's cocky and he has strength. Yes, cocky strength.
Those are the intangibles.
Those are his intangibles, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be as polite as possible here. That's all bullshit, right? That's all bullshit.
Probably. I don't know. Maybe they ask him what they think their intangibles are, and they give.
It's the whole intangibles concept. It's like, what do you want to put on the thing? Oh, I want to talk about the strength of my cock. Okay, cocky strength, sorted. Yeah, that's what I want out of my wrestling show. This is NXT. It's supposed to be the gritty, realistic one. It's supposed to be getting rid of the sports entertainment, and you've got that on your TV screen. It's baffling to me.
But I mean, tell me who's more built for Raw on a Monday night at 8:45 than LA Knight, like being the absolute pillock that he, as you guys would say, that he is.
Thank you for the follow, NGYJHF. I may not be saying your name all that much because it is just a bit of a collection of letters, but thank you very much for the follow. You'll get a notification every time we go live for watch parties or spoiler warning, which is our Monday and Friday news show. I get what you're saying about LA Knight being built for that Monday Night Raw slot, but, and I'm going to be very honest here, I can see him being in a year-long feud with The Miz and John Morrison.
Okay, where's the bad part about that?
That is a year-long feud.
Yes, but it's
Come on, we're
Miz and
sick of
LA
Damian
Knight.
Priest being involved, isn't it? I like the idea of Miz and LA Knight. I'm excited by that. But there's only so much you can take of LA Knight just being squirted with a big water gun. You know?
Well, I mean, I give Miz all the credit in the world for still being there when most guys would have been like, "Cool, I'm hurt, I can't wrestle for 9 months or 6 months or however long this rehab's going to be. Cool, I'll go sit at home with my beautiful wife and my 2 kids and take some well-earned time off." And he's like, "Nope, I'm showing up to every TV. I'm going to sit in a wheelchair and I'm going to squirt people with a water gun."
I will never question the work rate or the talent of The Miz. I will question the booking of a year-long feud involving The Miz till the end of time. Moxie says, I see Sasha winning the belt at TLC after the draft from Charlotte. Or the other belt. I don't necessarily see Sasha being moved across because that is your top star. I know Becky Lynch is back, but Sasha Banks is still the top star on SmackDown in the women's division. Jay Quick thinks that Grimes is going to win this one.
I do too.
You do too?
I do too.
Okay.
I think this is the end of the feud. I think this is Cameron Grimes finally gets his big win. He has Ted give him his hug. He becomes the conquering babyface, and they move the LA Knight to the North American title picture once Santos Escobar and LDF and Hit Row finish up what they're doing.
Do you think LA Knight might be one of those people who's already developed enough to be called up?
LA Knight was developed enough to be called up before he got there.
Yes, I agree completely with that. It surprised me that he was an NXT guy. It really did.
No, I could see it because Triple H has always talked about one of the things that they bring in people to NXT for, like people like Samoa Joe, is sometimes people need an idea as to know where the cameras are and to get things like that.
Yes,
and
the WWE way.
Yeah, and I think LA Knight needed that. He needs that Kevin Owens 6 months in NXT just to get the gauge of how he needs to look and where he needs to look to learn how to cut the promo the right way for the company to be on camera perfectly. Not to learn how to cut a promo. The guy already knows. But, I mean, learning from Triple H and Shawn Michaels is going to teach you, no matter who you are, how to cut a better promo.
It's very fair. I always remember Triple H and Shawn Michaels in the middle of a Royal Rumble giving lessons to the great Carly. Good times. Good times. Chase Paw Patrol says, I'm predicting Cameron Grimes will win as well. So a lot of people have Cameron Grimes. Jake Quick says, when are the tapings for NXT? Is it tonight and tomorrow? I honestly don't know. I'm not sure. I just know that there's going to be quite a lot of them in a short space of time.
Rumor is from Andrew Zarian, last I heard, is that they were supposed to be on a Monday and a Tuesday, and that USA was very unhappy getting a taped product as opposed to a live product.
We've heard a lot from Andrew Zarian about USA being unhappy. I'm expecting to hear a lot more about USA being unhappy as the days go on when you look at what's happened with Becky and with Brock. But at the same time, I'd imagine they're going to be shut up by the idea of, oh, but you're getting Adam Cole. At least that's the hope. Megan says, I know you talked about Knight and The Miz. What about Knight versus Owens or Zayn? Wouldn't mind seeing those feuds.
Ooh, that'd be pretty.
It's always one of those elements where a great promo cutter, you just want them to line up with great promo cutters. I'm honestly a little annoyed that we never got like a Punk and Owens situation. That would have been a big winner. Zayn, I can get behind, but at the moment, Sami Zayn's just not really doing much of note. And when I say at the moment, I mean like the last year, Sami Zayn's not doing much of note. He's just sort of there to put someone else over. And it's important to have people like that. But I think Sami Zayn shouldn't necessarily still be an enhancement talent. I think we should be moving on from that personally. That said, Knight versus Owens, that could be fun. If they let them go and don't script them too heavy. Andy, welcome, mate, says, what's going on, Tom and Ed? How far are we into TakeOver? We are about 15 minutes in. We're on the first match.
We had our pre-show match of Ridge Holland destroying Trey Baxter, which is always fun considering Trey Baxter was in your breakout tournament. Yay for breakout.
Yay. Yeah, he broke out and then he got put back in his box again.
Well, no, he also lost to Joe. He also lost to... No, he lost to Orlando... Odyssey Jones. That's it.
Odyssey, yeah.
Not Orlando. Orlando Jones is a completely different talent, whom I love, but no, that's not the same guy.
What did you make of the breakout tournament?
We talked about this a lot on Love Wrestling. The breakout tournament was good, but the problem is that none of the matches felt like it didn't feel like any of the talent really got the rub that they needed to get. None of the matches were fantastic. Odyssey
Yeah.
Jones is very, very young in his development in the PC, and he's a complete PC project. He started training at the PC completely from scratch, and they brought in a lot of smaller competitors, and they put him up against bigger competitors like Joe Gacy, like Josh Briggs, and Duke Hudson, who used to be Brennan Vink. So they put some of their cruiserweights in there, and it didn't work the way the last one did. But they have Carmelo Hayes in there, and being a guy from Boston who's watched Carmelo Hayes as Christian Casanova, I will never get upset watching Carmelo Hayes do anything.
I think it'll be a long time before anyone who is in that tournament is actually competing for championships in NXT. I think they're at the beginning of a very long development cycle. But hey, once they remove that top level, that top layer, I should say, in NXT, that should create a few more opportunities for them. Megan says, can't imagine Sammy being allowed to do much sooner than Saudi shows coming back. Yeah, he is very much a victim of that. He's always dropped way down the card when we get closer to it, and it's not a good thing. Megan also says 1 minute 46 for Holland versus Baxter. So yeah, that was not long at all. I blinked and I missed it. Andy says, got here just in time. I'm usually one that's looking forward to a takeover, but I don't know about this one. Maybe it's just me. I would say takeover is always a guarantee of wrestling quality. It kind of always has been, and I suspect it always will be. If you want a great wrestling show, watch yourself a takeover, and I think this one is going to deliver in that exact reign. But at the same time, we've seen Dragunov versus Volta. We know it's going to be good, but we have seen it. We've seen Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly. The NXT I was watching 2-3 years ago, we didn't get any rematches. As soon as people got to the top level, they were moved on. So you didn't need to have rematches. Nowadays, your feuds last, 9 months? NXT is very different nowadays, so I do think people are a bit less excited than they used to be. Ed, are you hyped up for this one?
I am. I love Cameron Grimes. He's become a babyface that I never know I needed to have in my life. LA Knight is one of my favorite heels in the business, below MJF and The Miz. He's one of my top 3 heels, and that I don't put Roman Reigns in the heel category, so that's why Roman Reigns isn't in that list. I still look at Roman Reigns as a babyface. That's just me because I love Roman Reigns right now. But no, LA Knight is fantastic, and Cameron Grimes has just immense talent and the ability to make anything special.
Beyond this match, how do you think this takeover card measures up to takeover cards of the past?
This takeover card has the potential to be better than any takeover we've ever seen.
Really? That is a bold claim.
You have a 5-star match potential with Ilya versus Walter, because the first one almost got 5 stars and they had no crowd. So you put a crowd in that match and it's probably going to be 5 stars. Joe versus Kross is going to be good because Samoa Joe doesn't know how to have a bad match. Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole are doing 3 stages of hell, so there's no way that's going to be bad. And Dakota Kai doesn't have bad matches either, and you have her in there with Raquel Gonzalez, so you have some meat to this feud. I mean, there's really not a bad match on this card because that's what takeovers do.
That is true. That is exactly what takeovers do. Jay Quick says, I'll be disappointed if in the new NXT I don't hear Regal say War Games. That's a fair comment, because given that this is developmental, it wouldn't surprise me if the WWE decided to take War Games to the main stage. It really wouldn't, especially when you consider a lot of people are being called up now who have been in War Games matches. We've got Ripley and Shayna and Dakota and so on and so forth from the women's side. We don't have like the Johnny Garganos and the Ciampas, but you've potentially got Adam Cole, Roderick Strong. Kevin Owens, in fact, has been in a War Games match and always worth mentioning. So I think that's definitely something that could be happening soon. Do you think
Adam
War
Cole's
Games
been
might
in every
be
War Games? Adam Cole's been in every War Games match. No, I don't think War Games is going to be moved, because at least not this year. Maybe next year they could have War Games on the main roster, but you have 2 factions already fighting, and you're getting close to October, November. So I could see Survivor Series weekend. You're going to see Legado del Fantasma versus Hit Row inside War Games,
which just sounds like fun.
Oh yeah,
very much sounds like fun. Megan says, you say that Baxter's first NXT match was against Kushida for the Cruiserweight title. Fair, that's definitely making an impact, and it's similar to how Sami Zayn was actually introduced on the main roster, so definitely something worth pointing out.
And I would agree with this. Now this is where I talk about the breakout tournament and why we had so much discussion about it. The people in the breakout tournament are some of the most talented people in NXT right now. We got Jiro Ikoman, and then you've got Trey Baxter, who is Blake Christian. If you don't know the indie name, it's Blake Christian, who's super talented and can do anything, and had a fantastic match with Kushida. But you put all these little guys up against Josh Briggs and Joe Gacy and Odyssey Jones and Brendan Vink. And that's where this whole tournament fell down a step, because you didn't give these little guys the opportunity to show what they really do, because you had to have them do a big man versus little man match.
The booking can cause problems like that. We've spoken in the past about having ideal opponents. I always use Bray Wyatt as a perfect example of it, but there is sometimes a size issue. Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman, despite size advantage, never looked like working out well together. They just never had chemistry. That is something that happens, and I think it's a case for a lot of people, even if there is a less of a size disparity. I look at Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara. They had minus chemistry. Something just meant that their matches did not work, and sometimes you have to accept that and say that's okay. You really do. Hopefully, we see more of the smaller guys against the smaller guys, but I think it really depends. At the moment, we have a very clear split on the main roster. Raw is the land of the giants, SmackDown is the land of the littler guy, and Roman Reigns. But Roman Reigns can work with anyone, let's be fair. J-Dub says, what type of changes do you think WWE will make with NXT beyond the look of the show? I watched a Nick Khan interview where he talked of changes coming in the next few weeks. The biggest sign that we have of the changes that are coming is that interview with Nick Khan. Myself and Ed were talking about it a little bit earlier, but we haven't actually been able to sit down and watch the whole thing yet. So I'm looking forward to that. It's always nice to learn more about the business side, because it gives you an opportunity to see who's making the top level decisions and why they're making them. It's more than just the words budget cuts. We actually get a bit of the bigger picture, at least from their perspective, even if we don't agree with them. The changes that I've been told about is mostly going back to what it was originally intended to be, a formal developmental brand, which means a lot of the people who've already been developed will be moving out of the brand, and it's going to be focused a lot more on homegrown talent, such as your Trey Baxters, to actually work out from there. It's why I feel that someone like LA Drake might not be too long for it, because he's definitely not a homegrown guy, but he definitely has the opportunity to move the needle. I said LA Drake, didn't I?
You pulled a me. It's fine. I put it in your head.
Your fault. LA Knight, I do feel he would be moving on sooner rather than later, but there's a number of people who have been told that about. I also have questions about Gargano and about Ciampa. There is serious questions right now, particularly from your Nick Khan level executives, as to how it looks to the outside world to have people who refuse to leave NXT. That has raised some questions. Andy says,
I was going to say, just on J-Dub's point. I don't think you're going to see a change in the look of the show. I think the show is going to look the same. You're going to have the same type of graphics. I don't think they're going to take that away from Triple H. Like Tom says, I think it's going to be your talent that's going to see the change. And you're going to see a lot more of the talent of the Gigi Dolan and the JC Janes, who we've been seeing the last couple of weeks, who I can't wait to get more looks at, because they have such a distinct look. And we got Blair Davenport coming to NXT UK, who is Bea Priestley, who I can't wait to see more of her, because I love her work in Stardom and Shimmer.
Kaylee Ray's coming through as well, of course.
Yeah.
There is quite a lot of people, and I do feel it's been necessary for a number of years to get that top level of talent out of NXT, so that we can see your Gigi Dolan, so that we can see the Trey Baxters, so we can see Cameron Grimes get TV time. I do feel that's necessary, and I do feel that there's a reason Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa are not getting that much attention anymore, even though they've still been involved in a storyline. They've been helping other people. The storyline of The Way at the minute is about Indy Hartwell, and Dexter Lumis. It's about the people developing, not the people who've already developed. And he says, exactly why I was more looking forward to TakeOver back then, as the new feuds it brought with the great matches they had, was why it had me excited. I mean, I'll always be looking forward to an Adam Cole match, but that's really it for me. There is a lot of rehashing at the moment of NXT, but I think a large part of that is because, at least tonight, with this TakeOver, this will be the end of an era for a lot of people. The big misnomer there is Samoa Joe, who's of course come back, but I think this is one of the reasons that we can say quite safely the main roster executives did not want Samoa Joe back in NXT. They've clearly been talked around because they would have signed off on it, but they did not want him there. Moxie says, I want to see Adam Cole versus AJ Styles. I don't think you're too far away from getting that. Bailey says, with Nick Khan's expectation of NXT changes, should we expect another round of cuts overall, including some on the main roster? Before I jump into this, Ed, would you like to make a comment? You can't say no if you'd like.
No, it's fine. I don't see another round of budget cuts. I think we're going to see a few people potentially cut, but I mean, I hope nobody loses their jobs. I think you could. I mean, hell, Nick Khan apparently wants a fourth hour of Raw. Again, unconfirmed from that Ariel Helwani interview, but apparently somewhere in there he talks about having a fourth hour of Raw. God, I hope not. God, I hope not. God, I hope not.
Cameron Grimes has indeed picked up the win, due largely to Ted DiBiase getting very, very involved on the outside, and a referee who is very, very good at looking anywhere possibly else other than that. Seems like it's a really big deal to Cameron Grimes. This is a big moment for him, the $1 million championship. It's a big endorsement as well, considering this was someone who a year ago was kind of just sort of there. Mm-hmm. I do get the feeling Cameron Grimes will be one of those who pushes towards the top. I don't think he'll necessarily get there for another couple of years, but I think he'll be pushing towards the top. He's someone still developing at the very least. As regards another round of budget cuts, I think more people will leave, but I don't think we'll have any more, 10, 15 people are gone. I think that is behind us now, at least for another year or so. I think at most we're going to see 5 or 6 more people go. Once we see NXT people coming up to Raw or SmackDown, I think we may see another couple of names going from Raw or SmackDown. I can't sit here and say, okay, this person, and this person. I don't know names, but I will say that it's likely to be, for example, a Drew Gulak level. I would suspect that is what we're looking at when it comes to people being removed. I would also keep an eye on Apollo Crews at the moment, just because he doesn't really have a storyline, but it is what it is as regards to that. Megan says, do you think the Saudi shows will also affect NXT moves, or will that be kept out of the discussion? I don't think there'll be a direct correlation. NXT talent very rarely are actually involved in Saudi Arabia. They're mostly kept in reserve anyway, and they do try and keep them separate. Unless the Saudi prince specifically requests Cameron Grimes, I don't think they'll be involved in Saudi Arabia.
But I think that the fact that we're back to Saudi shows is going to bring in the money again, because I'm assuming those payments had stopped. So maybe that might have been the reason for some of these budget cuts. I don't know how the business side of that deal works. If Saudi pays for shows, if they're not getting them. So, I mean, if in that market, it could change how things go.
Based on how they've worked in the past, Saudi Arabia, the government of that, of course, pays for this deal, tend not to pay anyway, or at least they haven't in the past. It's a 10-year deal. It is supposed to be a case of 1 payment per year, and it's supposed to be 2 shows per year. So once the second show is completed, the payment is transferred. The payments, of course, have not been getting transferred, and this is one of the reasons we had an airplane issue, and then a lawsuit. So there has been a lawsuit about this deal, and yet the deal continues. It's a baffling concept that we've got here, but it is a case now that the WWE have to catch up. We are likely to see 3 Saudi shows next year and 3 Saudi shows the year after that, before going back to 2 per year. At least that's the plan at the moment. Jay Quick says, how soon do you think we see the top people from NXT? Could they debut tomorrow, some of them? Yes, they could. I think a few names will be kept for the draft, but I think a number of names, I'm looking at your Adam Coles, will be there to basically say, okay, but Raw's exciting now, please watch us. And I think the big tell for that is Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar both returning at the same time at SummerSlam, when by all accounts, that was not the plan until very, very recently. There's a number of people, particularly I'm talking Becky Lynch now. I didn't know about Brock Lesnar. Going to be very blunt about that one. But as regards Becky Lynch, there's been constant updates and constant changes. Something changed leading into SummerSlam. We were able to talk about, well, if there's a panic button, now this is going to happen. Panic button happened. Vince hit that panic button. So I do suspect Adam Cole will be popping up on Raw this week as that panic button continues to be hit. Ed, who would be your top level of people that you're calling up?
I think you continue to see Karrion Kross on Raw tomorrow night. I mean, I know he's called up, but you see the official Karrion Kross on the show tomorrow night. I agree. I think you see Adam Cole. I think Adam Cole's gonna go to SmackDown. I think they're gonna load SmackDown. I really think he ends up on SmackDown.
Wow.
Talk about that mid card though. You have Cesaro, you have Nakamura, you have Adam Cole, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Apollo Crews.
You say that, but Apollo Crews has been getting very little airtime recently. Cesaro's not on our TVs. You mentioned Sami Zayn there, not on our TVs. And this is actually SmackDown, a very small roster compared to the usual WWE roster size. So I think they're going to have to be a little bit careful. But at the same time, we don't know individual situations. Sami Zayn and Cesaro might have asked for some time off after all. There's no way of guaranteeing it. So we can't say for certain. I think Adam Cole will be going to Raw. But at the same time, it's one of those. I was excited to see Toni Storm on SmackDown. And I say that because I've just seen Toni Storm on NXT. You haven't actually seen her. She came in for 1 week, beat Zelina Vega, which, as has been proven since, is the easiest thing to do in the world. And that's basically it. Adam Cole won't get that treatment. He's been offered a lot to sign a new contract and essentially had the ability to say, I want to go here or here and I want to face this person or this person. With Brock Lesnar returning when he did, that's telling for me that Adam Cole won't be going into any top-level feud in SummerSlam. But one name you didn't mention there in the mid-card, Finn Balor. There is potential for Adam Cole to walk in on SmackDown on Friday and walk straight into a feud of Finn Balor. I know we've had it a lot, but not on main roster.
Ooh, that would be pretty.
That is bright hair. When did she re-dye her hair?
The night she did the heel turn.
Usually the bright, vibrant colors are face colors.
But yes, but this is Dakota Kai.
That's true.
I mean, you can't have a ring name on the indies like Evie and not have bright colors as part of your gear.
But she was incredibly bright as Evie.
Oh, I know. Really I wholeheartedly understand and agree.
Yeah. I always find it funny that there is a lot of heel elements that Dakota Kai has, which are really classic. For example, the whole her hair is down, she's a heel, her hair is up, she's a face thing. That's genuinely a thing. I spotted it during the first Mae Young Classic when she switched from face to heel because she changed from facing Rhea Ripley to facing Kairi Sane.
Yes.
So she swapped from face to heel to work with the person she was working with. What I do find very interesting is that Dakota Kai is the only person I've ever known to have what I would define as the heel squat. Literally, when she's a heel, before she does her entrance, she does that little squat down where she goes to side to side. I don't know why. It is baffling to me, but it's a thing that she does.
I mean, I just saw her do it. I just didn't realize she didn't do it as a babyface.
She does it more rarely as a babyface. I think it's designed to be sort of creepy and like Spider-esque. It's very Nightmare Before Christmas. I think it's supposed to be a little bit creepy, which works better as a heel than a face. But you never know. She might do as a face. I don't watch that regularly, as we know. I'm quite excited for this one. But to be fair, I'm always excited for Dakota Kai matches.
They're top-loading this show. Like, think about it. These are the two matches that I thought would be your cool-off matches in between the big three.
NXT don't do cool-off matches, though, do they?
No, but it might have been a good idea with the matches you got tonight.
Fair. Megan says it was more thinking that if they know someone in NXT won't go, then that would delay or even stop a call from happening. That is a very good comment, Megan. Thank you for clarifying on that one. There are intangibles, ring IQ, elusive. Anyway, I do think there are a number of people in NXT who would not go to Saudi Arabia. I would immediately look towards someone like Adam Cole. There are also a number of people who are on a Raw and a SmackDown right now who have a lot less interest in going to Saudi Arabia than they used to. But hey, without Daniel Bryan actually picking the fight, as it were, it may be a case that people sort of do as they're told. It's hard to say for sure, but when it comes to Saudi Arabia, a lot of people are just company men. Way back when, I'm talking 2 years ago, I was told that one of the biggest company men in WWE was considering refusing going back to Saudi Arabia. It never actually happened, but I'm keeping an eye on that one. Thank you very much for the follow. The Wrestling of Horror 68. Just as we're talking about Spider and A Nightmare Before Christmas, here we are with the arrival of the Wrestling of Horror. Welcome, mate.
And I mean, speaking of people who went to, Saudi Arabia and haven't gone back, we're talking about the biggest company men, and maybe this is who you're talking about and didn't want to say the name, but I'll say it. Okay, I was going to say John Cena. John Cena was on that first Saudi show, and he's never gone back.
He's never gone back.
And he is the biggest company man in that company, with the exception of maybe The Miz.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. The Miz is definitely up there, as it were. And yeah, John Cena did refuse to go. He said no. I think a large part of that was the influence of Daniel Bryan. I've got to be honest. They were obviously very close at that time. Very close at that time. But at the same time, John Cena, I can't sit here and give him too much credit. After all, I don't know if you know this, but he's not great at knowing what countries are.
I mean, he knows what a country is, but he also knows that he's speaking to a Chinese media outlet and is smart enough not to rile them up by saying that Taiwan's not a country. He got stuck in a pickle there. He's representing a movie company who tells him, just make nice and make sure people in this country go see our movie, especially the biggest foreign market in the world. He goes, cool, I'll do it. Taiwan, yeah, Taiwan's not a country, no big deal. Also, the world's like, John, how do you know that Taiwan's not a country? No, I do, but I was talking to a Mandarin company. I can't just sit here and say that, this country that you still believe is yours, it's not yours.
That's the thing. You've got to toe the company line. I also think the lead actress in Mulan got into a lot of trouble for basically trying to not rile up her country. And I think that's another example of something like this that needs to be taken into account. I do think we shouldn't be too aggressive towards people who basically are just trying to make a living and trying not to rile people up. But at the same time, I find it very interesting that John Cena chose not to toe the company line and refuse Saudi Arabia. But when it comes to the movie deals, he's still working his way into the graces. He doesn't have the power that he does in WWE. And that, for me, is the biggest sign that WWE are fine with people saying no to Saudi Arabia. Moxie has asked, do you think SmackDown is better than AEW? I don't compare the two, and I don't really think it's worth comparing the two because they are very different entities. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I enjoy SmackDown more because I'm a WWE fan. I've always been a WWE fan. AEW does too many things differently for me to find as much enjoyment as I find in WWE. That being said, it is a wonderful wrestling product. And if you like everything in your wrestling, you're going to find it in AEW because they do everything. They do old school. They do new school. They do comedy. They do horror. They do it all.
Ultimately, that's what they're trying to do on Raw. Cater for every possible demographic. It's just it doesn't always quite work out. NGY says, Vince McMahon says that he likes people like Peyton Royce and she got released and Keith Lee's off TV. Vince always says that, but did he say he liked people like Peyton Royce or did Dave Meltzer say that he likes Peyton Royce? Because I've never heard Vince McMahon himself say that he's a big fan of Peyton Royce, but I've heard a lot of different TV journalists saying that he's a big fan of Peyton Royce, which is not the same thing. Keith Lee's back on TV now. He's explained why he was off. That certainly isn't Vince McMahon's fault. It certainly isn't as regards that either. Jay Quick says, I say Raquel Gonzalez wins and Dakota goes to SmackDown. I agree that I think Raquel Gonzalez is going to win. I think SmackDown is way too heavy on the in the women's division at the moment compared to Raw. Raw needs more people. And I'd rather see, for example, Nikki Cross versus Dakota Kai at the moment. Or in fact, Ripley versus Kai. That could also be fun. But we have spoken about that a little bit in the past. Wrestling of Horror says, Adam Cole joined Raw or SmackDown? I think Raw. Ed thinks SmackDown. Mm-hmm. And NGY says, did Adam Cole resign? Didn't resign. Hasn't technically... I know. Let me get to my thing.
Sorry.
Didn't resign. Had signed a contract extension towards essentially this show right now. So at the end of the night, he may resign because we don't know if he's signed a new contract as of yet. So he could, as of tonight, resign or re-sign. We're not entirely sure.
I stopped the bit. I apologize.
You did, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Jada was saying about John Cena, come on, he made one mistake. Not fair. I do agree. I'm not going to come down too hard on the guy because everyone else has already done that. I would imagine he knows what he's done in both elements. What he's done wrong to China and what he's done wrong to Taiwan. He has unfortunately wronged both of them. Chase Paw Patrol believes that Raquel Gonzalez will retain, and J-Dub is saying, I think Adam Cole will go exclusively to the main event. Now, I'm hoping you mean the main event of Raw or SmackDown, but I also don't think you mean that, J-Dub.
He could be talking about the main event, the movie that they're doing a second main event for Netflix.
Ooh, that could be a thing. I don't know if Adam Cole has ever been that involved in acting, but that could be fun. Ed, what do you think the risks are to Adam Cole on the main roster? Do you think he's at risk of the bad call-up as much as a lot of other people have been?
No. He has the abilities that he is basically another Shawn Michaels, and Vince likes that. And I think Bruce Pritchard likes that. He has the ability on the mic, as quote unquote small as he is. I think he has the talent to overcome anything, especially with, like I said, with the mic work that he's capable of. I think he can elevate himself high enough to be able to at least be in a mid card for the first year or two and really make himself stand out in just working a great in-ring match and making great feuds.
And he definitely does that. He's delivered pretty much harder than anyone over the last 5 years in the WWE umbrella, delivering quality match after quality match. He is one of those that it's just not possible for him to have a bad match. It really isn't. The actual list of favorites varies greatly by person. I know my favorite is not a lot of people's favorites, but it's certainly up there. That being the match with Aleister Black, the no DQ match, where he was dropped small of his back directly onto the edges of two chairs. That was there was a lot of good stuff in that match. The moonsault off the second rope into the super kick. It's wonderful to remember. Raquel Gonzalez had just tried to throw Dakota Kai headfirst into a turnbuckle and missed. Just went through the ropes, and I really quite enjoyed that. Had to go again. I liked it. It's very real. Andy says, Adam Cole is actually creating the main event Mafia 2.0. Have very trusty sources, believe me. Adam Cole is still one for the future, thankfully. He's not quite main event Mafia level yet. But hey, Ric Flair's available.
It's also the wrong company, but, I'll go with it.
No, we're getting a modern main event Mafia. Sometimes it's got to make it work.
Ooh.
You should be waiting for aces and eights. That's what you should be waiting for. They're going to walk into WWE. Oh, wait, no, that's the Retribution, wasn't it? Yeah, bad stuff.
I liked aces and eights. I mean, people shit on it, but I love it.
From what I can tell, aces and eights was actually very well received. I haven't seen much of it myself, but it looks like it was the last great TNA storyline. At least before they went Impact. NGY says X-Pac even said if he goes up, he won't make it up to the main roster for Adam Cole. X-Pac has been out of wrestling for a very, very long time. I personally would not be listening that hard to his opinion on this one. Especially when you consider X-Pac was the quintessential small guy at the time. So it upsets me a little bit that he's not backing Cole at least a little bit more. Wrestling of Horror says NXT needs new face superstars every week. Well, they're going to get some, and they're going to get some soon. That was a really dodgy landing.
I haven't got there yet. Hold on.
I'm trying to be fairly...
Nope, you're good. There we go. That was dodgy.
Yeah, I'm trying to not describe it in too much detail. Oh, she gets caught on the bottom rope. It actually may have saved her from landing on the apron. The lip of the apron is slightly higher than the walkway, and that's not good. I think the bottom rope catching her actually did save her from landing a lot worse.
Looks like it. I realized I should be taking notes on this now, considering I'm doing a React show, and I was like, oopsies.
No, here's the thing. You're hosting.
No, I know, but I still need to have notes.
You don't, though. That's the beauty of it. As a host, how many people are you working with tonight?
2. Potentially 3.
So, literally. So, our first match was Cameron Grimes against LA Knight. I'm going to swing over to you for your opinion on this. There you go. Sorted. Hosting is the easiest gig in the world. Why do you think I like NTIA so much? Basically, I just say, okay, this was our card. Nick, what do you reckon? And then I just have a little nap in my own head.
No, because you got to make sure that you pick up when Nick's trying to pick on you.
Well, no, I'm always going to pick up on that. I mean, we like to compare ourselves to Statler and Waldorf in the Muppets. Just basically two old grumpy bastards. That's the way it should be. Andy says they're being brought over. Promise. Well, if you promise, Andy, if you promise. Jacob says I really like the Aces and Eights. From what I can tell, very well received. NGY saying, what company should I go to when I grow up? Wherever will have you and wherever you want to go. Megan says, it's not ideal when her getting her head caught on the rope is a good thing. It's really not. It's really not at all. But hey, she seems to be absolutely fine, and that's the key factor. Well, here's a good one. From Bailey. Who is the next WWE performer to get feature work in movies along the lines of Sasha Banks? Nick, Ed. I've just been talking about Nick and I got those names confused.
It's fine.
Ed.
I mean, I don't mind being confused with him. It's
That's
Becky
fair.
Lynch. It's Becky Lynch, right? I mean, she was in Billions on Showtime. She was in the WWE films Marine 7,525,000 with The Miz and Shawn
Marine
Michaels.
6, yeah.
I mean, it's her, right?
I'm not necessarily sure. I know the opportunities are there, and I know she's got the global appeal now, but I think she just might not have a lot of time right now. She's got a lot on her plate, especially with just coming back as well. So it's possible. I still think Alexa Bliss is going to make a run for Hollywood sooner rather than later.
Charlotte,
maybe she had that a couple of gigs.
I was saying, well, Charlotte's also trademarked a whole bunch of names in the event she needs them. True. Ashley Flair is a trademarked own name by Charlotte. So, well, because Flair's not, it's the whole last name thing.
She's trademarked it's spelled differently, isn't it?
Yeah, but she's trademarked the WWE version of the last name along with her real first name.
Clever. It's a Hollywood name, that isn't it?
Isn't it, right?
Your surname is literally Flair. That's Hollywood all over. Oh. I found it interesting that we've just listed a whole load of women. I don't think any of the men are ready for that step up. Maybe Roman.
No, I mean, did you watch Hobbs and Shaw?
I did not. Was it not good?
Yeah. I don't think Roman's running to the movie theaters just yet.
Fair enough.
Put it that way.
And that's a 3. I don't think anyone is going to be all that surprised with the end result of that match.
No. Like I said it was a possibility that Dakota wins.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a good possibility.
I have concerns here. The way Raquel is responding to Dakota Kai certain moments during the match, I hope she's okay. There are some moments that kind of worried me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully she's fine. As you know, I'm a Dakota Kai fan. It's a clever finish. Really converting one finish into another.
Yeah.
Andy says, can't think of anyone aside from Sasha. I think Disney will honestly find her a lot of things potentially. I agree. When it comes to wrestlers who end up being movie stars, as it were, they tend to start with very small roles. The Rock's first appearance was not the Scorpion King, for example. It was The Mummy Returns. And essentially, he was a CGI face on top of a big scorpion. Tends to start with small roles. As J-Dub says here, he had very little to do in Hobbs and Shaw. He was there because of his cousin. It may be that he was getting the routine. Someone with Roman Reigns' stature, his physique, his name brand value, I think he'll get offers, Roman. I definitely see offers coming his way. It's just whether or not he chooses to take them, because right now he's on the run of his life. Maybe after he loses the championship, he starts to take a bit more time off, record a few more spots. Something's happening. That's exactly what I expected. Yep. I can't remember how long ago it was, but when the news first broke about Kaylee Ray, I remember saying that she's probably going to be lining up against Raquel Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the most sense.
Oh God, it does.
Kaylee Ray has arrived in NXT. She's not skipped straight ahead to NXT UK, but that's absolutely fine. I've interviewed Kaylee Ray on a number of occasions. We always end up talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Because the first time I interviewed her, I was wearing this t-shirt. I could play that off as having insider knowledge. I didn't, but I could play it off as, just because that is a weird-ass coincidence.
This is the weirdest commercial. I don't know if you guys are seeing this on the network.
Yes.
Okay, you're seeing the Applebee's commercial,
Applebee's.
right?
Yep.
Okay. What the hell? Like, where did they pick this crew? And how does Lindsay Dorado get on that list?
I have no idea. It's probably one. They do this. They do this all the time. They're walking backstage. They see a crowd of wrestlers and like, "Hey guys, can we borrow you?" Yeah, here's your lines. It's always Ziggler. It's always Ziggler. Always
well, I mean,
Ziggler.
I would put Ziggler in everything if I were, marketing WWE. The dude loves the company and like he's a marketable face.
Yeah.
Cesaro makes a lot of sense. I love Baron Corbin walking in there. I kind of wish they would reshoot it now with poor Corbin.
With the shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've decided to, look after him and give him a meal, but as it turns out, he's just embarrassed to be near them. As regards Kaylee Ray, Megan says totally fine with this. Me too. That's definitely a feud that I can see going places and certainly adds a lot of extra excitement for TakeOver. Jado about the commercial says a real motley crew of characters, which given that you're talking about someone like Dolph Ziggler, motley crew is a very, very good thing to say. Because didn't he play a motley crew-esque character in Southpaw Regional Wrestling?
I think so.
It was season 2. I can't remember the exact details.
I'm always more fuzzy on season 2 because it's less funny.
Yeah. They went back and there were some really good moments. The fact that they only hired one woman wrestler. That was good stuff.
Debbie Desperado.
And it was just all hairspray. All hairspray. Like she would have fit in perfectly in Glow.
Now they had a lot more Southpaw women in the video game.
I keep forgetting that happened.
Yeah, because you had Peyton Royce, and you had Billie Kay, and you had Asuka, and you had Renee Paquette.
Susan.
Oh God, here we go. Here it comes.
This is the one that you've been the most hyped for, isn't it?
I can't wait.
Logically, after this, it'll be the championship match and then the 2 out of 3 falls. The issue you've got here, most of this story has been built on NXT UK, and I'm going to be very honest, I find it very difficult to watch NXT UK because, one, I'm not the biggest wrestling fan, I'm sports entertainment, I'm characters. It's why I like WWE and more than, for example, AEW, because I'm not there primarily for wrestling. But also because of, all the sexual abusers. It's very difficult to watch NXT UK. So I don't know what's going on with this story. I just know they keep fighting and it keeps being damn good. Is there anything actually extra to it, or is that basically all it is?
No. They were fighting. So after Ilya lost this, he started to go into these where he'd go into matches and people would irritate him and get him all irritated. And all of a sudden he would go into trance Ilya, like trance Tsubushi. And he would just start like murdering people. And then he'd break out of it after the match was over and he'd have like a bloodied opponent next to him. You gotta remember, this last time they fought a big match like this between the two of them was October.
Fair. I didn't realize it was that long ago.
It was October of 2020 when that first match happened. So it's been a while that they've waited to come back to this.
By the sounds of it and the way the UK government's working at the moment, I would imagine NXT UK tapings are going to be starting again relatively soon.
Mm-hmm.
So a new champion might be the right way to start it. I just don't necessarily see it at the moment.
And Megan has our answer, by the way. It's Nikki.
Oh, I know. That was definitely... I knew it would be Megan as well, let's be fair.
If there's anybody who's ever going to tell us sexual information, it's going to be Megan.
Nikki Lee sticks with Ziggler's character in Southpaw. We kneel and bow. Jadeb says, is anything going to change with NXT UK in the coming weeks or status quo? At the moment, status quo. NXT UK, they don't need to worry about budget cuts because they basically don't pay them that much. And as I just started talking about the potential return to filming, that is the big change that they're looking for. They just want to get back in front of crowds again.
And also with NXT UK, they do it the way WWE wants them to do it anyways. It's treated more of a developmental thing anyways. You have a lot of younger talent that's not as high on the card there that I like learning about when I watch here and there.
Yeah, it's another one as well that does have a bit of a problem at the very top, but they've started to sort that out. Kaylee Ray, for example, beat everyone again, basically beat everyone again, then lost the championship and now came to NXT. That's logical, but it shouldn't have taken that many years. She's more than good enough. I think the reason it took so many years, of course, is coronavirus at the moment. We haven't been able to travel as much as, I think Walter's another one. They want him in NXT proper. He doesn't want to go. This is creating problems. Every time he goes to the US, something happens. The first NXT UK Championship is long gone. It was stolen and has never been recovered. That was his first real visit to the US working for WWE. He didn't like it. He did not like it at all. So I don't think they'll be able to keep him in the US. But every now and then going over is absolutely fine with. It's also worth remembering, of course, that his brief time on the main roster, he got his head kicked off by Drew McIntyre. And that was pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty much it. Although he did get to have an 8-man tag team match with Seth Rollins on the other side. I don't remember who everybody else was. I think it was Rollins, Owens, and the Street Profits, I want to say.
Megan will find out for us.
It was a while back. Chase says we're already halfway through. Not quite halfway through, but we will be halfway through this match. Megan says, although my brain went to Sebastian Stan with the mention of Motley Crue because of the Pam and Tommy series. I'd imagine your brain would have gone to Sebastian Stan anyway, Megan. Let's be honest. You are, after all, Sebastian Stan. Chase believes that Walter will retain. I also think Walter is going to retain. Ed, who've you got?
I think Ilya.
You think Ilya?
I think we have a new champion.
Megan says the first Walter Dragunov match was October 29th last year. It was 25 minutes and 9 seconds and was ended by the referee. You know this is going to be fun. Mm-hmm. This is one of the things I need to start doing, the double headphone thing that you're doing. So I need to buy some new headphones because I want to hear the chop. You know it's coming. You know it's going to be loud. You know it's going to hurt. And I want to be able to hear it, but I can't because I've only got one set of headphones. It's plugged in to listen to you.
I mean, you could put it on mute and still hear Walter's chop all
That's
the way
fair.
from Florida to the UK.
That is fair. I was there in the crowd for the first NXT UK taping featuring Walter. Heard that first chop on Jack Stars, which basically broke his entire chest open. Good times. Good times. Megan says, I remember the booze when Walter was eliminated at Survivor Series. Yeah, that people were not happy. And I think that's fair. Just why would you have him in your Survivor Series team if that's what you're going to do with him? You could have anyone else. I don't know. And Megan says, it usually does. Can you blame me? No, absolutely not.
No.
Have never blamed you, never will. It was Rollins, Owens, and the Street Profits.
Wow, yes. Tom. Good job.
To be fair, I was there for that as well.
Oh, it was a UK show, yeah.
It was a UK show. It was a UK SmackDown and Raw taping. And it was when Montez Ford did the first rope shake that he now just keeps doing. And he never quite stops doing. And I can't get my arms in sync. Jacob says that's a beautiful belt, by the way. Classy.
Intangibles, Tom. Heart and determination for
Heart
Ilya.
Determination. What does Walter have? Unbeatable ring general.
I mean, it's not untrue.
Well, if he gets beaten. As regards the championship, I do think that is the best one that the WWE have, at least when it comes to, just looking at it.
I like the women's one with the white strap a little bit better.
I like the Intercontinental Championship at the minute as well. Yeah, true. Fair. I was very disappointed by the AEW Women's Championship. Especially when you see the size of the men's. Yeah.
The little toy.
Just, yeah.
All it needs is a butterfly, and it can be the same thing as the Divas title.
I hope it never gets that bad.
No, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah. Megan says it began as just Walter versus Rollins. That was a DQ finish, then became an 8-man tag. It was a long-ass segment. Long segment. That was when we got our first glimpse of Shayna Baszler as well. It was an interesting one because UK journalists habitually just run into wrestlers at hotels because we all book the same hotels. Whereas in the US, they tend to book out an entire hotel. You can't do that in the UK. So it tends to be that the journalists will intentionally book the same hotel because we get used to the ones that the WWE book. The amount of times I've been at a show, like an NXT Takeover, and it's a case of, oh, that's Undisputed Era. Huh. I wonder if they're going to be there tonight. Probably. I mean, they flew them all the way out here. Same thing for the SmackDown show. We saw Walter backstage. I didn't see Baszler. Saw Walter backstage. And it's one of those it's a pretty big scoop, that. Nah, I'll wait for it. Because that's just UK. That's what we do.
I love how Walter can kick one rope and it shakes all 4 of them.
And he's in fact still shaking now.
Yep.
He's still going for it. The man doesn't know how to use a slight force. It's all or nothing.
I don't know if it was here that I said it, but I was watching. I'll mention Cultaholic, and they were doing a predictions battle with another channel, and their first idea for a punishment was, well, Walter will be at the media con. We'll just go ahead and have Walter chop us. And safety people from the show are like, no, because Walter won't hold up, and we can't promise that you guys are going to walk.
Yeah, that's genuine. That's genuine. I've interviewed Walter a couple of times, and he's I'm not the biggest guy. He is the biggest guy. The pictures are as from slightly below as well, because somebody wanted to add a little bit of perspective who was taking the picture from the PR team. So I look even smaller next to this behemoth next to me. And it's one of those, you're sat there and you're talking to him and he's chatting away and he's very affable, is Walter, very affable. Just a very, very, very good talker. And you think to yourself, you could genuinely kill me. And you'd do it if I asked you to. Because you get that, the way that he generally talks and the way that he is a very, very cheerful person, you just get that image where, like, if you said, can you chop me? He'd just break out in the biggest smile and just say, yeah, I definitely can. And that's it. The end, your life is over. I don't know how many people he's actually done that to. Megan says the AEW women's title looks like a chunky bracelet on anyone with a dress size in double figures. It was clearly made with the Joshi wrestlers in mind. I do think it was designed with Rio in mind. It suits Rio. But when you put it on someone like Nyla Rose, it doesn't suit her. Really
it doesn't even suit Britt Baker, to be honest with you.
No, not really. It
doesn't even suit Britt. Now, mind you, I love Britt Baker and everything she's doing, and I think she's the best women's wrestler going right now, character-wise. I love Sasha, I love Bianca, all of them, they're fantastic. But character-wise, you can't beat DMD right now. Just can't.
I believe her character is Dentist?
Well, real life character, yeah.
Dentist.
Evil Dentist.
Evil Dentist. Which, to be fair, is we've all had that nightmare. Megan says, because she is, after all, our stat queen, at 6'4" and 295 pounds, Walter makes most people look small, even without him being a wrestler. Yeah, he's a big dude. He's a big, intimidating dude. But as I say, very affable, very cheerful, very fun to chat to, and did briefly try and steal my phone. Briefly, before realizing.
I'm sorry, I was not paying attention. I had to go ahead and continue doing my mod duties. I apologize.
It's all right. You know me. I can always bump. You are the one and only when it comes to mods at the moment, sir.
I have an idea. I have an idea who we should make a mod at some point, but that'll be a different discussion for us to have.
That would be a different discussion, yes. I have my own ideas. I'd love to talk to you more about it. We do, after all, talk pretty much non-stop about the channel, and it's your channel as much as mine, as is true of everyone in the room at the moment. Apart from the people who are trying to make me famous.
As much as you like to say this is as much my channel as it is yours. Yes, I understand I was the one viewer here when you started doing Twitch streams along with YouTube streams. I would be the one viewer in these things. You wouldn't even get the wannabe famous people. It was just me. The entire chat for the hour of news things in the afternoon would be Ed asking questions on Twitch because Ed's the only one there. But this is your channel, and I'm just happy to help you grow. Now, granted, you've been fantastic on putting me on a different level and helping introduce me to people whom I would have never met if it wasn't for you. But this is still your channel. I'm just along for the ride.
You seem to be doing very, very well over on Love Wrestling as well, so.
It's been a fun experience. They are a wonderful group of people who continue to keep growing, and we're branching into covering every and anything. And there are still big things that haven't even come up yet that are coming out. So, I mean, I have a show in development for Love Wrestling for my own show. So that'll be fun as I get onto the content creation side of streaming.
With the experience you've got now as a host and a creator here, Love Wrestling, all of that, What's the advice you'd give to new creators out there? People who are looking to start streaming, people who are looking to be in front of an audience who are maybe nervous. What have you learned that you'd want to pass on?
Learn to understand that you've just got to get out there and go for it. Don't be nervous about nobody watching. Don't be nervous when you're doing a live stream and you're keeping an eye on the Twitch count on your StreamYard and it's 2 people and you know it's you and one of the other hosts in the room. Keep talking because you never know who's going to listen to that on VOD. You never know what show is going to be the one that gets a raid from somebody that you're, immensely friends with, like John Robertson, and all of a sudden you go from having 40 people to 105, and it makes Tom Colohue, for the first time ever, have YouTuber face, and I have the photo to prove it.
Yes, you do. You send that on to me, you evil bastard. Yes, you do. I did a react. It's a thing that I did. He's a bit of a hero of mine. Just like a bit of a hero of mine. But yeah, I agree. It's at some point when it comes to stuff like this, it's just about biting the bullet and going for it. It's not an easy thing to do. It really isn't. But you don't get the experience until you really jump in. And I think it's very telling there what you said about even if no one's watching, you never know who's going to watch on VOD. As you've said, for a lot of the gaming streams and stuff, particularly early on, you would be the only viewer. But I'd look a week later at the VOD and it'd have 60 or 70 views. People were watching, and people were watching regularly.
Mm-hmm.
They just weren't there actively in the chat. And it's very, very telling for how you grow and how that works. We've been picking up followers, even just today. Let's have a look. We've had 4 followers added to the show since we started streaming today. 4 extra followers than what we had, taking us up to 336. This time a week ago, I was on 282. You never know what's going to happen. You really never know. Now, there are certain ways to help the growth and all that. I know a lot of people have been really putting me over recently, and that's been a huge help to me. A lot of reports right as well, which is always a good thing that draws more attention. But unfortunately, when it comes to streaming, it's all about that first moment and just knowing that, yeah, people see your face, but that's okay. Terrifying as it is. Megan says it worked on Rio and Shida. On Nyla, it was ridiculous. This is the women's championship belt in AEW. They did Britt a favor by making it a little bigger, but it still looks pathetic next to the men's belt. I don't like it at all. I'd rather have the men's belt. And why the hell not? A massive belt is usually very well received.
Unless it's the IWGP new title, and that one's not so well received.
It's a Power Rangers title. It's a strange one. The IWGP title was already gorgeous. You didn't need to do that. Andy says, I stream every now and then when I started playing games on my PS4 that I got not too long ago, purely some lads in a Discord group that just wanted to chill and watch. But then random people hopped in and chilled. Have a look at it like a hobby first for me. Don't set expectations. Enjoy streaming for what it is. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I naturally am looking to try and make a living out of this, try and make a business, as it were. It's working better than I ever expected. It really is. You mentioned the John Robertson raid on Monday. We'd already reached a record 45 people in the chat. And then we went up to 160 with that raid. We were already breaking those records, and it's held firm. The watch parties have been up to 20 or 30. For SummerSlam, we had an average viewership of 23. It's incredible numbers. Mm-hmm. Way more than I was expecting at this point.
We're on that road to partner.
We are indeed. We are. Mega says, when I stream, I just prattle away to myself because that's what I do when I'm playing and not streaming. Thinking about only having 1 or 2 people watching me just makes me sad. And that's we've all been there. We've all had that time. We've all had days where we thought, okay, this isn't going anywhere. But you push through. And honestly, prattling away while you're playing games, that's all I do. That's genuinely all I do. I make dumb jokes while watching a wrestling show or playing a game. That's all it is for me as well. It's slightly different for you, Ed, because obviously with Love Wrestling, it's more of a podcast format.
Yeah.
As of course is every show we've ever done together.
Yeah, Love Wrestling is definitely, we have a type of a format, and it's mostly we're talking about something. We're not trying to just fill empty space. We have an idea of what we're talking about. More like yeah. Ilya's not doing so hot right now. I don't know how he's even on his hands and knees. Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah. Anyway, as you were.
Yeah, we have a set kind of a format that we have over there. So it makes it easier. But no, it's it's disheartening when we're doing a show and it's right after an NXT show and I'm watching the viewer numbers and it's 3 people and I know one of them's Spencer, one of them's me, and one of them's probably Astrid or something, as we're making sure that we keep an eye on what the chat, actually looks like. So when Twitch stream dies, because that's what Twitch has been doing constantly for everybody lately.
Honestly, I feel very lucky that for the follower number I have, I get the viewership I get. If you look at other streams, the average viewership compared to follower ratio is way higher than you would expect in my streams. And that really does make me feel very blessed, as it were. I think a lot of it comes down to our streams are a little bit different. It's just constant engagement, so people are constantly active. Wolf Gamer says, I honestly couldn't stream if I wanted to. Way too much lack of self-confidence. As a guy who literally lives with a genuine hatred of his own face, never say never. I never thought I'd be comfortable in front of camera. And yet here I am saying that in front of camera as we speak. Never quite say never. J-Dub, bringing us back to the actual conversation at hand. Dragunov's chest. Yikes. Yeah.
That's what your chest looks like when you fight Walter.
Yeah. It's a big help being quite pale when you face Walter because you're just constantly being destroyed. Oh.
It's nice to see Jess Carr back down in NXT again. I love NXT Jess.
Oh, yeah.
I just noticed it myself just now.
To be fair, I'm in and out on the match. It's a good match, but we're also having some quite in-depth conversations here.
We are. As always for our this is why Tom doesn't let me on the watch-alongs for anything else.
That's genuinely true.
That's just to go to rattle off crap for 2 hours.
Yeah. This is our style is a bit more intimate. In this podcast style. We if we had as many comments and questions as we have for Raw or SmackDown, we'd be about a half hour behind the whole time.
Yeah.
We would. Dragunov's hyping up. His chest is just wrecked. I do get the feeling that these two have that Kenta element of no one's actually told them wrestling isn't supposed to be really beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
And they just decided, you know what, we're just going to go for it.
I mean, if you got 2 guys who are you're gonna let beat each other up, it really should be these 2.
Yeah. They both have
I think Ilya could honestly murder Walter if he tried. Like, it looks like half the time like he's going to murder everybody in the ring anyways.
He's he's got that element about him of being, they both have someone where if you're a wrestler and you walk up to them backstage and you say, hey, do you mind if we do strong style today? Are you sure? Because I can do strong. Are you sure? Maybe not.
I think Walt, you walk up to Walter and you're like, hey, can we do strong style tonight? And he's like, I don't do anything but strong style. Get ready for your chest to be red. God, this is such a good match.
I mean, he's very red. Top rope drop kick. What do we got? Wrestling of Horror says WWE deserve more for Adam Cole, Dakota Kai, and more NXT superstars. You may want to keep them in NXT. I think they may want to stay in NXT. But the WWE, the ones who pay their salaries, and they will be taking them away. Megan says, I hate the sound of my own voice and I don't have a camera on me when I stream because my level of self-loathing is pretty damn high, but I got through it somehow, not sure how. Little and often makes a big difference. Whenever I see you streaming, Megan, I try and drop in and at least lurk to show the support that we can. After all, I had Ed doing that for me, and it made a big difference when I first started.
And I agree. I do the same thing for Megan. I don't even know if she knows that I'm in there all the time. But almost anytime I see, because she streams while I'm working. So it's great in the middle of the morning. I wake up and she's streaming and it's probably mid-afternoon for you guys. And I'm like, great, pop it on. It's a nice little chill stream in the morning. Watch her play Valhalla. Watch her play Fall Guys. It's fantastic.
Sometimes it's really just that simple. Just drop in and give an alert because a lurk can make a big difference. Jadeb says Volta's chest is rough too. They are going to be reeling for this one for a while. Wolfgamer says wanting to do strong style with Volta is like wanting to do strong style with Murder Grandpa. Yeah, you don't get a choice is basically what he's saying there.
Speaking of Murder Grandpa is one of my favorite wrestlers that I've learned about since learning about New Japan Pro Wrestling a few years ago. Um, uh, it's Ishii and it's Suzuki, and those two men are some of my. And it's more Suzuki because of the fact that Suzuki is such a kind and weird soul.
Have
When
you seen
he's
his
not,
Instagram?
I know. His Snapchat's even better.
Is it?
Supposedly, like I see people posting things that's like he's got like this nightcap on, like the blue like sleepy time nightcap.
Nobody looks better in a hat than Minoru Suzuki. I don't know how. But he's an amazingly suave man.
I mean, there's nothing better than you lost a hair versus hair match. You're the heel. Your guys come out and help run you off, and you tell your own guys, go to hell. One of which is Zack Sabre Jr., the other is Lance Archer. You tell them, go to hell, go back in the ring, shave your own head, and then walk away.
That's the overwhelming fear. If I was ever a wrestler, I'd be terrified to compete in a G1 knowing that eventually I'm going to come up against Minoru Suzuki, because that's the end of everything. Chase says, I have gaming streams on PS4 a couple of WWE and then Paw Patrol. Done a lot of Fortnite streams on my laptop. So you've done quite a bit of streaming. Chase, do you go the face route or do you just go the game route? Bailey says, how many years before Volta becomes a main roster talent?
0, because he's never going.
Yeah, I genuinely agree with that. Volta does not want to travel does not want to live in the US. Unless a big change of mind is coming, I don't see him. Sorry, I was distracted by the pain.
It's all right. It's coming. I can see it. They're both getting up. I know something bad's happening.
No, it's just the fact that they're just beating the shit out of each other.
Oh, here comes the powerbomb.
J-Dub just says, this is a hell of a match. And my word, it is. And Wolfgamer says that moment was badass, though. Yep, always is.
There's very few Suzuki moments that aren't badass because that man is the epitome of badass cool.
Sorry, I agree with J-Dub there. Saying my chest is hurting just looking at Dragunov. It's... I think back to the greatest Royal Rumble and Daniel Bryan after taking one chop from Roderick Strong.
Mm-hmm.
You could literally see the handprint.
Oh, sorry.
I know. Did not expect that. The thing is, the false finishes are so much better for Volta because he doesn't have a set finish.
He has like 5.
Exactly. He uses a variation, and all of them can be false finishes.
The sleeper, the power bomb, and the splash, I know, are the 3 big ones.
The clothesline as well, he's finished off Tyler Bate with.
Yeah, the clothesline.
He can basically beat you with anything, so nobody knows when the actual finish is coming. It works. It's a very good thing to have. Jada says he's one tough son of a bitch hanging out with Walter like this. And indeed, just even knowing you're going to get hurt this much and this bad, and you can visibly see it, he's still getting up for more, which is terrifying. Moxie says it's like Reigns versus KO at the Royal Rumble. I think this is a lot more intense, to be completely honest, Moxie. Chase says PS4 streams mostly no face, have no camera on the PS4. Yeah, the PS4 needs you to have a specific camera. It's a pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. And he says, I think Ilya wins this. After that, then Jesus. I'll have to wait and see on that one. Megan says, just to fill in the info for comparison, Ilya is 5'9" and 187 pounds.
The filling comparison is that Walter is 6'4", 295. I went back to double check.
Yeah, that's just over 100 pounds difference. And what's that, 7 inches?
Yep.
I mean, as a guy, I naturally don't know how big 7 inches actually is, but it's hard to tell. And he says,
something about thumb in like the base of your wrist to your thumb or something. I don't know.
And he says, I may have just butchered Dragunov's name there. It's hard to tell. It's not a name I'm particularly familiar with. I know I'll misspell it if I try it.
That's why I always just go with Ilya. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah. Chase says, on the laptop, I use my webcam and streaming software. Streaming software can be a real pain. Moxie says, who do you think wins? At this point, I genuinely don't care. I'm just happy to see a great match.
I would say, at this point, the fans.
The fans have won, yeah. Jadeb says, "This is awesome." I'd imagine there are "This is awesome" chants. I just can't hear them because
there have been throughout the show, throughout the match. Yes,
this is exactly what you'd expect of these two. That's the thing. You know what you're getting. It's this. Megan Swivel saying, "We do. We win." I do feel like we're coming close to a finish now.
I also thought that 10 minutes ago too, though. So to be fair,
Walter's bleeding from just above the elbow. I think Dragunov's got a similar cut at the same place. Oh, I mean, wow, there's a point at which this stops being wrestling and just starts being a bar brawl.
The Mad Bush
that's
is
the point.
Kicking him right in the face.
Yeah, that's the point.
Oh. I think it should be mentioned as holy shit. There we go.
We have a new NXT UK champion.
I'm not going to say he's the winner because you look at his chest.
He taps out.
He did. Ilya didn't even know he tapped.
No, that's good. You see Jess saying he taps.
Yeah.
Walter might be coming to NXT. They may have convinced him.
Oh my God. Joe versus Walter? No,
if you'd have asked me,
I can get my hopes up there.
If you'd have asked me 2 years ago when Walter was first in his championship run, who's going to be the next champion, I would never have pointed out Dragunov. Never.
I honestly, for a long time, thought it was going to be Devlin. I mean, I know there are issues with him now after everything, but I know he's back and the company's behind him to an extent. So it's like I always thought it was going to be Dragunov. Not Dragunov. I always thought it was going to be Devlin because I think that Finn connection is so strong there.
He does not like being asked about that as well. I've asked Jordan Devlin about the Finn connection. He does not like it, which was funny. J-Dub just says, "Holy shit," which I think is a good response to what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And Megan says, "Ilya's in shock. Jess had to explain it to him." Yep, Jess had to explain that Walter tapped. He tapped. I did not expect that. Go get an ice bath. Just go lay down for a bit.
So, do you think Meltzer gives that one 5 stars? Or is
it
going to be 4 3/4?
Here's the thing. It's hard for me to say because I spent about 3/4 of the match watching my laptop and talking to you.
That's true.
Which makes it difficult. I really enjoyed it. I really got into it. I'd probably watch it again. And that's usually a sign of a good match in my books. Megan says 22 minutes and 3 seconds according to Cage Match.
And well worth every second of it. Worth every second of it.
I'm expecting the main event to take forever. Cole O'Reilly, I think that's going to be at least 45 minutes, possibly an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're going to have the NXT Championship up next.
We'll find out in about 2 minutes.
We will. Jacob says, "I'm a big fan of Jess. I like seeing her on NXT as well as main shows. I like her demeanor. I like that she don't take no shit, which is rare in referees. Referees are usually played to be pretty dumb. She is not played like that. She just gets on with it. And I like that." We have a backstage interview with Cameron Grimes and Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase holding money. Money which I'm sure Baron Corbin is after. This would be a great time for an attack from behind by Baron Corbin. That's all I'm saying.
No. I think that I heard this on, I think it was on, so we're talking about it on Love Wrestling. The idea that Cameron Grimes goes up to the main roster after this and buys Baron Corbin.
Baron Corbin is the gift that keeps on giving.
You want money? Here, you can work with me. And he buys the services of Baron Corbin.
Chase says it was very good. Matt says, "I'm shocked but happy." It's definitely a surprise to me, but not a surprise to everyone. J-Dub says, "Yes, that's what I meant. All business." Absolutely. Cameron Grimes is announcing $1 million celebration on Tuesday night. Okay. I think I may be wrong about the main event. Samoa Joe is wearing a t-shirt that just says "Provoke Me."
So this is to go with the storyline of when he was in.
Yeah,
When he came back, he was told he could only get involved if people provoked him. So he had a shirt made for him that says "Provoke Me."
it's a good shirt. Are you pro or anti Karrion Kross being on Raw while being an NXT champion? And I don't mean the booking on Raw. I mean having a champion on 2 shows at once.
I don't mind the fact that he's the champion and being on Raw. I do, however, think that if you're going to do that, that you need to protect the booking of your NXT champion going into a massive match like this.
Yeah.
Him losing, had he destroyed Jeff Hardy and then maybe lost to Keith Lee in a hard fought 20-minute match, you might have been able to get over it.
Yeah.
But to have him get beat by Jeff Hardy and then not beat the hell out of Jeff Hardy afterwards, it hurt the look of the match.
It is Cole O'Reilly next. My prediction for the free falls is Cole O'Reilly. I'm going to catch up. And then if you don't mind, Ed, I'm going to leave you to it for a moment while I go and get a fresh drink. Megan says, I still like the idea of Corbin trying to cash in on the $1 Million champion. Would have been fun. Still could happen. Could still be fun. Omega just says, my name in capital letters. Doesn't say yours, so Ed. So we can fix that, I'm sure. We can fix that. And Jada says, Beth Phoenix is a ray of sunshine. Love having her on the commentary team. She's learned and grown a lot into the role. I do agree with that. I don't get to hear enough of her because of how we do things in shows here. But I do feel she's become very comfortable in her role. And I really enjoyed. I'm not a fan of a 4-person commentary booth, but the Royal Rumble 4-person commentary when it was Michael Cole, Corey Graves, Renee Paquette, and Beth Phoenix, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. All right, Ed, I'm going to put you onto full screen for a moment because I'm going to go get myself a drink and have a bathroom break.
All right.
Okay, I shall see you in just a moment.
All right. So, hello, everyone. This is the moment where I start taking over the Tom Colohue Twitch channel. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Because Tom's still here. Omega finally saying my name. Thank you. I mean, it's the first time you've seen me on camera, so it's not new. No, J-Dub. We don't tell him that the takeover is beginning. Shh. We keep that quiet. No, we have the package for the 3 stages of hell. This is going to be fantastic. I'm over this feud. I'm very much over this. This feud has been great matches, but I felt like after the first one, they could have stopped and just let Kyle be the star that he's supposed to be. That being said, you can't fault them wanting to do 3 matches in one night with these 2 guys. J-Dub saying that's the way it works. You always have to take over before it happens. True, but it's always nice to have. So are you like the Scott Hall? Are you coming around saying, hey, I got some friends, you know where we came from? Is that what we're doing? Both these guys, thank you, Wolfgamer, we appreciate it. Jay Quick asking, do both of these guys get called up? I don't think so. I think Kyle O'Reilly stays on NXT. I don't think he's developed enough as a single superstar in the WWE style to be able to make it on his own. I think I always compare him when I'm on Love Wrestling talking about Kyle O'Reilly as a single superstar. I compare him to Lance Storm. The guy can have some of the greatest matches technically that you'll ever see, but it's missing something in his delivery and on the microphone. It just feels like he's missing something, and he doesn't have that charisma gear that Adam Cole has. But yes, I believe this is the final match for Adam Cole, and I think when we see the footage from TakeOver tonight on Twitter, we'll see the thank you Adam as they go to the promo package for Joe versus Kross. J-Dub says, yeah, you know who I am and you know why I'm here. Thank you for the Scott Hall. I appreciate it. Bailey asks, how does the WWE prevent Adam Cole turning into another call-up that just goes anonymous on the main roster? The difference between Adam Cole and some of the other guys that went anonymous in the main roster is that his character and his charisma is undeniable. And he's more like a Kevin Owens, where even when he's not doing things great, it still means something that he's there and that he's doing something, and he'll grab the attention of the fan base no matter what bad or good story they put him in. And I think that's the thing. JW agreeing with me, talking about Kyle, that he's great, but he's missing that secret ingredient, whatever that happens to be. And now we have Tom back, and we're going to stop all talk of takeovers.
Well, the takeover is on, and we were talking about Walter versus Dragunov. I do have to start by saying thank you for the follow, King of Vine. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Tom Colohue channel. We are joined by Ed Fries, my mod, my friend, and my takeover companion, which has become a tradition of sorts. Every takeover, we have our little podcast-style shows right here. There is a brief burst of chat very nicely here. Some Ed from Megatron, some Ed from J-Dub, both these guys from Wolf Gamer. Lots of stuff going on. Now, Ed, you'll have to catch me up. Have you answered this question from Bailey?
I did, but I obviously your opinion may be different than mine, especially with the information you might have.
I'll jump in and give it a shot. Bailey says, how does WWE prevent turning Adam Cole into yet another NXT Cole that goes anonymous on the main roster? Well, Adam Cole's been offered some pretty high-ranking stuff. He's been offered championships, ideally in the first year, in order to get him to sign. So they will have responsibilities to him to fulfill those promises. A world championship in the first year is something that isn't necessarily unusual. It's been in a number of contracts. Most historically, Kurt Angle had that clause in his contract. And in fact, the Big Show had that clause in his contract, which is why the Big Show did win a world championship within, I want to say, 7 months of debuting with the WWE, or WWF as it was then. I don't know if that necessarily is what Adam Cole's been offered, but he's certainly been offered a lot of big stuff. WWE historically hasn't always fulfilled that because Bobby Lashley was promised Brock Lesnar. So really, it's up to the booking team and it's up to Adam Cole to know his worth. I get the feeling Adam Cole's the guy who knows his worth.
Wholeheartedly agree. One of the other questions that we were talking about is that from Jay Quick is that do both of these guys get called up? And I said I think Adam does, but I think Kyle still needs some time because I don't think Kyle has that next gear in terms of charisma to be able to keep himself afloat as a smaller guy on the main roster like Adam Cole does. And like I said, as I was talking to the chat, I compared him to Lance Storm. In the ring, nobody can touch him. He's one of the best technical wrestlers in the world. On the microphone, he's a bit bland, he's a bit boring, and he can get lost in the shuffle very quickly with that.
It's true. I'd like to see Kyle O'Reilly take on at least someone else in NXT because I feel Adam Cole is likely to have carried a lot of this feud. He is basically a charisma machine. So you're always going to be in his shadow a little bit. It's a problem. Kyle O'Reilly has for a long time been a tag team competitor. That's worked out for him. His tag team partner has been fired. So it's a very difficult position for him. I think Roderick Strong is starting to look at some of the difficulties of being away from Adam Cole. Adam Cole clearly has been booked and built as the star. Joe Quick does say, I don't think WWE could mess up Adam Cole, but I could be wrong. I think they certainly could. I think it'd be a lot harder for them to screw up Adam Cole than to get him right. Megan says you just need to look back at the pop Cole got when he was in the 2018 Royal Rumble, and he did get a huge one. Shock the system at that moment, got a lot of love. Omega says Walter Dragunov was awesome as expected. It absolutely was. Really delivered and really hyped up the crowd. I think they're going to have to start moderately slow pace today with this particular match, which is likely why the classic wrestling match has been a part of this 3 tiers.
Mm-hmm.
King of Vine says, honestly, I have to ask, what show do you think will Adam Cole go to? I think Raw, personally. Ed?
I think Smackdown. I know everything says otherwise, but I think the matches for him to have, the better matches are on SmackDown. And I think you start there and then let the draft determine where you need him after that.
Yeah, it's a good point. They could push the draft back a little bit further. It's already been pushed back, of course. That'll give them time to see how the NXT talents are landing. So you could put him on SmackDown for 2 months, give him one feud with someone, and then basically say, okay, do we like this? Do we want to do a quick change? Who knows? Corey says, hi guys, welcome Corey. Omegatron is just shouting, Tom and Ed, baby. And Jadeb says, tough to follow Walter versus Dragunov. If anyone can do it, it's these guys. It's not necessarily an impossible task, especially if you're someone like Adam Cole, but it's not easy. It's not easy at all. Ed, if you're a wrestler, do you want to be following a match like that?
Me personally, no. If I'm Adam Cole, I'm fine with it because I'm going in with one of my best friends for the past 10 years, and we're doing 3 stages of hell. And I think that if anybody can help me get through and make this a match to remember, even after a fantastic UK title match, it's going to be these 2 guys.
I do think that's true. Adam Cole is one of those. He's been a tremendous leader for NXT. If anything, he's been the Roman Reigns of NXT in a number of different ways. He's going to be horribly missed from that locker room once he goes. He's the one who rises to the challenge. He was the guy every week who'd be saying, come on, guys, we're going to beat AEW this week. Let's just go out and do it. He is that guy. Mm-hmm. And without him, that's why they needed someone like Samoa Joe. That's why they desperately needed someone like Samoa Joe who could do that same thing. I think Adam Cole thrives on that competition. He thrives on knowing the previous match was great. I have to be better now. As regards Kyle O'Reilly, I think I get the same feel from him. I just haven't been able to see enough of it because I've never really seen him as a singles guy.
Yeah. I think that the one thing I would say about Adam Cole and that philosophy is I think he got that from that indie sensation and the Ring of Honor thing of we want to be better than the next match, which is one of the things that made the Attitude Era so great, is that all the guys had this personal pride of we want to have the best match on the card. That's part where the Undertaker was trying to go a year and a half ago after the last ride stuff. Yeah. Where he was like, these guys, they're playing their video games backstage and they're doing this and that. And he came across like a gruff older veteran who doesn't give a crap about the young kids. But there is that factor missing of, going out there and saying, hey, follow that.
Here's the thing.
Oh, wow.
The first fall does indeed go to Kyle O'Reilly via roll-up, a nice quick one. Here's the thing. You've given that example of The Undertaker, and I'd like to jump into this one particularly. Yeah. When he talks about the guys backstage playing on the video games, you automatically go towards Xavier Woods, right? Your brain will automatically go there. New Day and Usos were the best matches on the card, week in, week out, month in, month out, for years. Mm-hmm. The New Day are always playing games, and they still deliver the most compelling, the most entertaining matches. I dread to think what the tag team divisions would look like in WWE right now if Xavier Woods hadn't walked into that office of Vince McMahon and said, I can get people to boo Kofi, just let me. Mm-hmm. I dread to think, because the Usos, if not for the New Day, are basically the only great tag team who would walk in and say, we need an opportunity here. Vince does not like tag team wrestling. He would have forgotten about them. So I think The Undertaker was completely wrong and completely out of order, personally. And this is coming from an Undertaker fan.
No, and I agree. I'm just saying that there's a level in that comment where he's talking about, and it goes to things I hear from him, things I hear from Angle, things I hear from Stone Cold about the Attitude Era and the way that guys saw their spot at the time.
Yeah.
And, and how that changes. And I think that's more what I think he used the video games as a vehicle to do it, and he shouldn't have. But it's the idea that guys are back there having fun and being jovial and being friendly, when in his day, the locker room was a snake pit of everybody trying to be the best that they could be damned of who they screw over to do it.
I don't see that as a positive, personally. I know that's exactly how it worked in his day. You're absolutely right to point that out. But yeah, nowadays, people will genuinely just work with each other. Now, There are a number of people who aren't grabbing that brass ring. You look at, I think, Tyler Breeze is a great example of this, because he literally says, well, yeah, it's just a job. And yeah, you got fired. Oh, well. He's not competitive in that regard. But there are still plenty of people who are. And I would rather have the camaraderie, personally, if I'm booking a locker room.
I just like the idea that guys were going out there and actively trying to make sure that their match couldn't be topped. And I think that there's a level of that could be done nowadays to really make the product that much better.
There are ways to do it and ways not to do it. I think the way Adam Cole does it is a great way of doing it, and I think he will continue to do so. Be the best match on the card. You don't have to make other people's matches worse. You don't have to undercut or be bullies backstage as a lot of people were in The Undertaker's day. You can be a leader, you can be a friend, and you can still be competitive in matches. To catch up, Corey says, how are you guys doing? Undefeated right now in TakeOver. Ed is free for free. I am not so lucky. Jadeb says, who do you stop featuring on SmackDown if Cole goes there? Only 2 hours. Someone needs to drop off. Ed, you've got to drop 2 people to make room for Adam Cole. Who have you got?
I am going to drop... Damn.
Yep.
I'll get rid of the Mysterios.
Okay. Fair enough. So you're dropping tag team wrestling?
No. We can have tag team wrestling. You still have the Usos. You still have the Alpha Academy. Oh, there we go. The Alpha Academy.
Yeah. You want to drop Otis?
No, I love Otis, but Otis and Chad Gable doesn't quite work for me. I miss fun loving Otis. I miss Otis and Mandy.
As a lot of people do. I don't know what went wrong there. Megan says there was also Cole's line in the promo against Kross where he was like, you know what they do to make Adam Cole feel special? They ring the freaking bell. That's accurate in my opinion, says Megan. And I agree. Adam Cole is, what is it, a best bout machine that Kenny Omega once called himself?
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say that for Adam Cole. He just delivers real quality matches. Jake Quick says the first fall of technical wrestling. It is, and it was.
We are now in the street fight portion.
We are. Wolf says I'd rather try and follow the Walter match compared to being in said match. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. Anything to avoid getting that slap on the chest. Megan says first fall already. Jake Quick is saying, wow, that was quick. King of Iron says, this is a good question with the WWF being brought up last night. Do you think they're going to go back to that or just keep it as WWE? No, they cannot go back to WWF. There's no question about it. They literally legally cannot change back to WWF.
It's a trademark owned by the World Wildlife Federation. WWE has lost in international and U.S. courts over the thing because it's an international company that owns that copyright. So WWE was able to get it for a time period because of that fact. They have now signed paperwork saying that they will never do it. It's why when you look on the network and you see old stuff, all the visuals of the WWF have been edited out with blurs.
Yep, as many as I can. There's a couple that did survive, but most of them have definitely been blurred out, and it's very rare that you find any reference to it now. I know somebody had said at SummerSlam WWF, but that was clearly an error, and the WWE would have made a call to the actual WWF to apologize for that for the sake of PR.
It was Slater, by the way.
Yeah, it was Slater. I just keep forgetting his name. I've already read that. Corey says, I'm surprised it's not the main event, to be completely honest. Me too. However, this is one of the reasons why we have an NXT specialist here who has, of course, got all 3 matches right and knew that the main event was going to be the NXT Championship, even though he wanted it to be the NXT UK Championship.
I did.
This is why we have a specialist. And you said you weren't a specialist.
I'm not an expert. I'm a specialist.
Are you happy with specialist, are you?
I like that. Specialist is good. I can handle that. I watch it every week for Love Wrestling.
Well, there you go then. Are you going to be hosting Love Wrestling's wrap-up every week?
No. JPJ is the War Report host. I am filling in while Matt is dealing with some things. So I am helping. Me and Astrid are helping out, as is Pluggo and Cody on the AEW side. And so me, Astrid, and JPJ host the War Report every Tuesday night after Power Up. Which, by the way, if you're not watching NWA and watching Power Out is great because you get to learn about these incredibly talented wrestlers like JTG killing it in the NWA right now. Next weekend, NWA has some great wrestling. If you have some money, put down for the bundle. Watch NWA 73. Watch Empower. Empower is going to be one of the best women's wrestling shows. It is being run by Mickie James, and Ella J has been hand in hand helping her do it. And Ella J has been fantastic follow on Twitter these last couple of weeks, listening to her get so excited for this, as it'll be her first ever pay-per-view, and she is hyped.
She is, and I genuinely could not be happier for her. I don't know LJ too well. We obviously know each other a little bit. I believe. Was it the first time you really met her when she was on the WrestleMania pre-show?
Yes.
Yeah, and she's just a wonderful, cheerful, helpful, enlivening person, and it's so great to see her so happy with things as they're happening. It's really changed the fortunes for Mickey James. She's gone out there and she's made things different,
I
and
just want to
that's
say
the right way to do it.
I just want to say something great about Ella J. She was on Between Two Beards last week, and she was epic and she was fantastic. But she came up with the greatest fantasy booking for last night's Goldberg match, and I wanted it to come true and it didn't, and I'm so sad.
What was it?
Having Gage Goldberg turn on his father and be like, "I don't want to know what you do. I don't want any of this. I just want you to go away." And to have him help Bobby Lashley retain the title.
That'd be great, because after that, they could have a ladder match to determine who actually is the father of Gage Goldberg.
They could.
Go full Mysterio on it. And then eventually Gage Goldberg debuts with Bobby Lashley, his dad, who's clearly his dad. And it just all works from there. You know, I could see it.
But yeah, Ella J had the wonderful idea, and she came up with it on the show, and she started hysterically laughing to the point where she was causing herself tears of joy as she was holding it in, waiting for her turn to talk about what was going to happen in that match.
Okay, well, I'm definitely watching the VOD now. Definitely watching the VOD. We have had Ella J on, for anyone who isn't aware of her. We have had her on for the night 2 of the WrestleMania kickoff show that we did, in which we had the channel points turned on, and someone decided it would be a great time to cause me a whole heap of embarrassment by doing those weird comedy things that we do between ourselves to a guest. That was an experience.
And by the way, that was also one of the first times I ever used my channel points.
Yeah, because you were banned from that one.
I was told I wasn't supposed to. But you had a guest on and you weren't going to tell me off in front of a guest. So I did, in my defense, I did one. And Ella J thought it was hysterical and asked, "What else is there?" And I said, "Oh, that's great. I have all the channel points. I'll show you." And I proceeded to do them all.
Yeah, all of them. All of them.
Bless. She had a ball. It also might be the reason why she hasn't been on the show again. And if that's the case, I take responsibility for that. I'll put in a good word, and hopefully we can get her back on again.
Bailey's asked a question. A good conversation are a WWF. Who owns the WWF trademark?
Vince.
Vince does still own that one.
I was going to say, I don't know if he's still paying for it, but the last person to own it, as far as I know, would have been Vince.
I believe he's still paying for it because he still owns a lot of the footage. He doesn't really do much with it. The hope was that it would eventually be on the WWE network. He'd have the WWF stuff on there, but it just never quite worked out. Because of the archive process that they've got, because of how it was stored previously. So he's basically just got a home cinema with all the WWF stuff, which is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. Imagine having that. Omega's just shouting random names and making me think there's run-ins that thankfully aren't happening. I don't want that run-in. Jadov says Judy Bagwell is free. How about a Judy Bagwell on a pole match?
Okay, Vince Russo.
I mean, you deserve that, J-Dub. You deserve that.
While you were gone, we were talking about takeovers and things like that. And I told J-Dub that we're going to have to keep things like that quiet. But if he wants to be my Scott Hall, that's fine.
Great. You're not plotting anything, no.
No, of course not. And if you watch the VOD, you won't hear me at all tell people to be shh about the takeover stuff. Now that I'm on full screen all by myself on Tom's channel.
Well, I mean, you're getting closer. No arguing that. Megan has suggested surely it would be Paul Heyman on a pole for Roman versus Brock.
I want Paul Heyman in a shark cage for that match.
I was going shark cage. Yeah, I was going shark cage.
I don't want him on a pole. I would love him in a shark cage. And I think he'd be down for it. I think he'd be in for it. I think he'd do it. The image of him being held up in that shark cage, not knowing what to do. Like, that was the best part of that thing, is he's yelling, "No, Brock, no!" As he's looking at his boy, and then Brock, and then his boy, and he doesn't know what to do. That is going to be so fascinating as long as they continue to let Paul be the driving force and the creative for that storyline, which I believe he's been the driving force this entire time that he's been with Roman.
Being heavily involved, yes, I wouldn't necessarily say driving force, but I think it's more because there isn't one voice when it comes to this. There are a lot of voices, so it's hard to pinpoint one specific one. Roman, for example, has been very, very involved.
That makes sense.
Megan says, I would also say Shark Cage, but forklift will also be acceptable. It's literally the guy at the party with a new partner running into the ex.
It really was. The look on Brock's face. As my mom said, she's like, I'm like, Ma, you know who that is, as we're watching SummerSlam last night. And she's like, no, I don't know who that is, because she doesn't recognize the music. And she's like, I'm looking at him, and he looks familiar, but what the hell's on the top of his head? I'm like, it's Brock, Mom. She's like, no, that's not Brock. Brock has the Q cut.
He's a hairy boy now. It's a very, very different thing.
Here we go.
Adam Cole has picked up the second fall in the street fight. Not a surprise to even them up. After essentially throwing Kyle O'Reilly onto the 2 chairs in the same way that Adam Cole himself was on the 2 chairs from Aleister Black way back when. I respect the callback and I respect the play there. Omegatron says he's saying Cedric Alexander running into cost Adam Cole doesn't make sense. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm saying.
Although Cedric Alexander in NXT wrestling Kushida, I'm all for that.
That'd be cool. I mean, they need people on 205. Moxie says people say Paul will betray Reigns. Do you think he will? Yes. I think it's more likely that Heyman returns to Brock. Because Brock needs Heyman. Roman doesn't. That's how I see it personally.
I think that the betrayal angle would be better off than him just telling Roman that he's leaving and he's going to Brock. I think there should be a betrayal moment. I think it would be good. I think, actually, instead of it being Paul betraying Roman, I think it should be Roman who goes, you know what, Paul? We don't need you anymore.
That's where I was going with it.
Okay.
Where I would go with it is Paul Heyman does seem conflicted. Roman gets sick of the fact that he's conflicted, spears him. Then Brock Lesnar comes down to protect Heyman, clears the ring. Brock looks like a big face, whereas Roman looks like the big heel. It's fairly standard. It is not going to be easy for the WWE to keep Brock Lesnar a face. It's not going to be easy. Against Roman, that makes sense, but I don't think he'll be a face after that. If they can give Paul Heyman some positive heat, that'll be good for it. That'd be a big help.
I like this that they're having O'Reilly sell that chair shot, because it was the one thing I didn't like about the last time I did that spot, is that I don't think Cole had to sell it for long enough. I like that they're making it a huge point that O'Reilly's basically broken in half and can't get back up, and that's a really key thing. I like that.
I also quite like that the cage, with the way they bring it down now, they basically just tape up the sides. Ethan says, hi Tom, currently watching TakeOver 36. Been good so far? It has been good so far. It's been a very good show so far. Megan is not surprised at the 1-1 and also says, Brock stole Otis's beard.
This is true.
This is true. Any news on Banks? Nothing yet, Ethan. Anything that I do find out will be in spoiler warning tomorrow. I have had like 16 DMs from people asking for updates on Sasha. If I have information, it'll be public.
The only DM you got from me today was me going, hey, here's Alia Hawani talking to Nick Khan. This seems like news.
And it is news. It's big news. I'm looking forward to watching it. It's just a case of getting the time.
And I love that it's Ariel Hawani too, because it's a name that I can trust. It's a guy I know that's going to shoot straight. The only other person I could have seen getting this interview that I would have really loved would have been if it would have been CVV.
I would have seen Justin Barrasso getting it.
I think WWE would have given Barrasso this story, but I think CVV would have asked better questions. I think Barrasso...
I know what you mean.
Hawani is straight down the line because he doesn't give a crap, because he'll just do his UFC stuff, and if WWE doesn't come give him anything, he doesn't care. But I think CVV... he has enough name clout with everybody else around him that he's not going to be pinned down by WWE to be forced to do what they want him to do. Whereas I think Barrasso would cater to WWE a little too much in the interview.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's why Barrasso gets the gets the interviews, isn't it? Because
Oh,
he does
absolutely.
cater a little bit.
Which you have to do. Like, I don't fault Barrasso and Satin for doing it. It's what you should do if you want to make your name and you want the best information. You get the information better when you're friendly with the company.
Ethan says, I heard she was in a restaurant in Vegas. Yeah, Ethan, you heard that from me. In a DM that you sent me and I responded to. Maybe in a DM. I've answered a lot of questions today. But yeah, we spoke about the restaurant in Vegas yesterday. That's the only real information we have, that she doesn't seem to have COVID because she was spending time with people. But who knows? Who knows? We'll wait and see. We're not going to push too hard on this one. We're not going to push too hard. But we did work together last night. I know Megan was chasing that one as well, to try and find out more information. And we haven't really found anything conclusive. At the moment, there just isn't anything conclusive.
Nobody, and the thing is, nobody has anything. So it's obviously something WWE's playing close to their vest. Mercedes isn't saying anything.
Yep. Even if you look behind the paywalls, no information there.
This is true.
It all comes down to the cage match. Jadeb says maybe she pulled a warrior and asked for more money right before the match, so Vince sent her back in. I feel very confident in saying that didn't happen. I feel very confident. Would have been funny, though. Jadeb says SummerSlam does bring that out in people. Fair. SummerSlam is that event, isn't it? And to be fair...
I was going to say, wasn't that the Double J one was the SummerSlam too, right?
It wasn't... It was nearly SummerSlam.
I was going to say, it was in Spencer's
interview. It was like
interview.
a No Mercy or something like that.
Yeah. Spencer has an interview with... I'm sorry, I apologize for plugging the Love Wrestling stuff. But when you get to interview Double J, it's always worth it.
Fair enough. You've done it quite a bit, so...
Sorry.
I wouldn't apologize now after like 15 times. Just roll with it, man. I'm clearly fine with it. King of Iron said the question, who do you think Adam Cole will have his first storyline with on the main roster? And if you could, who would you put him against? I wouldn't throw him straight against Lashley. I would probably look towards either taking the championship immediately off Damian Priest for him. I genuinely would consider doing that with an Adam Cole. I think that'd be a great first feud. But I think given the lineup, I would go Adam Cole, AJ Styles.
Give me Nakamura. If I'm putting him on SmackDown, give me Nakamura.
We both immediately got him chasing a championship.
I mean, you kind of have to when you have Adam Cole. There's the first thing he should do is chase Gold.
Yeah. Bailey says, one suggestion that's out there, concussion protocol. It's a guess. I wouldn't call it a suggestion. I'd call it a guess. People are guessing. And until we know actual information, I don't want to suggest anything. That's where I'm sitting on that. J-Dub is saying that AJ or Finn Balor would be great first feuds for Adam Cole, and they definitely both would. Ed, you look like you wanted to say something about Sasha Banks there?
I would just say that the Sasha Banks thing, it's obvious that the company wants to keep it close to their vest. If they wanted the information out there, we'd all know it. Because we all know that there is, as Tom would say, there is a prolific leaker, especially at a pay-per-view. So, I mean, we would have known if there was something to be known. They've done a really good job keeping people safe lately. You know, yes, Jeff Hardy had COVID. Many other people have had COVID. But WWE has seemingly tried to do a very good job of keeping people safe lately with all kinds of different things. So I would err on the side of caution with that one and just say that if it was something that we needed to know, we would. When
we talk about prolific leakers, that's the big thing. A lot of wrestlers genuinely release information to screw with the company. A lot of them do. They've chosen not to do that, which strongly suggests to me that this is just something that Sasha Banks herself doesn't want out there. If Sasha Banks doesn't want it out there, it's not for me to share anything. It really isn't. And just finally, Megan says Finn or Nakamura for me, maybe even Rollins. Plenty of options, all in the SmackDown side. That is it. It is over. Kyle O'Reilly has forced Adam Cole to tap out while handcuffed to a cage. I mean, it's definitive. Jada, once again, that's a guess. And I'm just not going to guess at this point. It is, as you say, you clarify that yourself. Pure speculation. It may be a possibility. It may be an impossibility. I don't want to live in a world where that's the immediate assumption. It's just, I don't know. There's untold possibilities, and it's just none of our business, essentially.
I mean, to that thing, baby fever has been running wild in WWE. Let's be honest.
Has it?
Becky Lynch, you got Becky Lynch, Lacey Evans, Candice LeRae. That's 3 in a year.
Yeah.
When's the last time you heard of any?
It's a global pandemic, mate. I've seen a lot of COVID babies that are being born at the minute.
No, I understand that. And he's right. JD's right. Sarah Logan as well.
Yeah.
But we don't often hear about female wrestlers having to take time off too often. And then because of the global pandemic and everybody being close by, I agree that's probably what it is. But that being said, it's just like it's the last year plus it's baby fever.
That said, circumstantial evidence at best, and I'm sure you'd agree there.
Agreed, wholeheartedly.
We have a new guy with a very interesting name. I'm going to say Mr. N. Saying, do you guys interact in chat? We do. We try and interact with every comment we can, as long as it's a good faith comment. Moxie says, do you think Brock is keeping his new look? Yeah, he likes looking like this. He'll stick with it. Moxie says, when Paul goes to Brock, do you think he'll win the WWE Championship? We're way ahead of things now, Moxie. You're assuming that he's definitely going to Brock. You're assuming he's going to be competing on Raw. You're assuming he's going to be in the feud of the WWE Championship. We have no idea. I think that's just getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Megan says, all we can do with Sasha is wait. It's none of our business, really. If it was something like pregnancy, they would have told us right away. Unless Sasha didn't want them to.
Mm-hmm. It's entirely possible.
As far as I'm concerned, it's really that simple. But the fact that it hasn't been leaked, Sasha doesn't want it out there. And I think it comes down to respecting her wish and not trying to speculate too much. As far as I'm concerned, when Sasha returns, Sasha returns. It should be that simple.
I was going to say, I think it's telling that we don't have the thank you Adams here. So unless Kyle's going to leave the ring and they're going to do it in the break here, there's no send off for Adam Cole.
Well, he's not staying in NXT. I'm confident of that. He's either main roster or gone.
Agreed.
Jadov says, if Cole walks out on Raw without a limp, I'll be pissed. He's really selling the submission move. Yeah, he had to limp away and get helped out there. Trying to put over Kyle O'Reilly as much as he can on the way out, but it definitely looks like a way out, doesn't it?
Wholeheartedly. And Adam has done some fantastic things in NXT. He built one of the greatest factions in WWE history there with him and his friends.
Oh.
I don't know what you've seen yet.
No, but you'll see it. You'll see it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, now I see it.
I'm glad they did this. This is how you sell a match right there. Well, read that one. Megan says, all I can say right now is ow, looking at Ilya.
Yeah.
In fact, ow, 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 ow. Yeah. And this is the thing that they all want. If you're not willing to do that, WWE doesn't want you. Wolf Gamer says, I've seen on Twitter people saying the CWC crowd were chanting bullshit.
I didn't hear it on my end.
Didn't hear it and didn't see any reason for it. I don't understand why they would do that. And Megan says, suddenly I feel bad for complaining about the bruise on my arm now. Yeah, do you remember when I had that dodgy arm because of the COVID jab? I suddenly feel like I'm just taking the piss. Also, I still never want to take a chop from Volta. Terrifying.
I hate how Joaquin Wilde has stolen Santos Escobar's jacket. I like it when Santos Escobar is the one in the gold jacket. Although he looks good in every suit he has.
Yeah, fair. Some people are just very attractive. That's all I can say. Megan says, I heard something after the match but couldn't make it out. It's possible they've just tried to get Adam Cole out of there as quickly as possible. just in case the crowd react badly to him.
Maybe.
I mean, that's happened before.
Maybe they were worried about the crowd chanting AEW.
Maybe, and that's very fair. I do recall when the Women's Tag Team Championships debuted in the Women's Elimination Chamber match. The Women's Tag Team Elimination Chamber match. They just got longer and longer. The night before, a report made the rounds that Carmella and Corey Graves were together and that he was cheating on his wife with her. So Carmella got the shortest intro they could possibly give. And she was out the match in no time flat because they knew people were going to chant something at her. And people did chant something at her, and it was disgusting. Because the story was completely false. They were a couple, yes, but there was no overlap in relationship. Sometimes they do sort of protect the wrestlers a little bit. And I do think sometimes, unfortunately, that's necessary. It shouldn't be, but it is. Megan says, I think they were quickly trying to mute something. My hearing doesn't let me down normally. Unfortunately, I've just got it a bit too low to really tell, but fingers crossed. Fingers crossed it's fine. And Jada says, if Cole hasn't re-upped his contract and is heading to AEW, that'll make for some interesting matches. Punk, Omega, Allin, Daniel Bryan, maybe, and many, many more. I'm still not confident about the Daniel Bryan thing, but apparently it's September 22nd. I believe it was rumors he'd be making his debut.
The Grand Slam.
If so, not many days to wait. It's just the fact that so far only one outlet has reported it.
Yes, it is the 22nd. You are correct.
Yeah. It is literally just the one outlet that's actually reported it as happening. That makes me nervous.
And it's a name that like I said, I saw the story, and the first thing I asked you is, whom is this person reporting this story, and do they have a credible track record? Because I'd heard of the website, but I've heard of the website in negative connotations before, but I had not heard of the person reporting the story.
The person reporting the story is a good guy, but he does work with Ringside News. Also, he has an incredible track record when reporting about the revival. Specifically. I
mean, it's fair to say I know where he's getting his info, man.
Maybe you do. Maybe you do. I've never really known an exclusive from him about anyone else. So that raises questions for me pretty much immediately. Megan is saying, if Cole goes to AEW, give me him and MJF. There are a lot of really good options in AEW. Honestly, I don't know which I would prefer. I genuinely don't. I think there's great options in WWE. I want Cole versus Styles. I really do. But there are also great options in AEW. Punk versus Cole would be huge. I think if they were able to get Adam Cole, that's when AEW start to actually look like a threat. Because CM Punk is a past star. Daniel Bryan is a current but past star. They've got a lot that they've done. They're coming closer to the end of their careers. Adam Cole is just getting started. He is just getting started.
I'm going to throw out one for Adam Cole. Adam Cole and Britt Baker versus Cody and Brandy Rhodes.
Cheesy. So cheesy.
Tell me that one won't sell tickets.
It would sell tickets.
Tell me Cody wouldn't be all over that stuff. Like white on white.
When's the last time Brandy wrestled?
It's been a while because she was in the Nightmare. She was in the Nightmare Collective, which didn't go well.
They just canceled it, yeah.
And then she, became pregnant and had Liberty. Beautiful baby, and congratulations to Cody and Brandy on the birth of their daughter. But she's doing a lot of things behind the scenes. She's getting the reality show off the ground.
Which I'd imagine Lana's going to be joining very soon.
No, it's just specifically about the Rhodes.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's Cody and Brandy and all the things of Cody and Brandy. Yeah.
You say reality TV, I immediately assume Lana's going to be involved. She's got all the experience of it. And then you say, no, it's just the Rhodes family. I get the feeling, do you remember the big sections in the Undertaker documentary where he just sat down and talked about America for a little bit? I get the feeling there's just going to be more of that. I mean, they've called the kid Liberty, so that's everything you really need to know. Megan says it would sell, but Adam and Britt would wipe the floor with Cody and Brandy. I'd imagine they actually would as well, even like storyline wise. And Jacob says Britt would run circles around Brandy. I don't argue with that at all.
Brandy's not as bad in the... Sorry, I'm dancing to the Joe music because I love it so much. But Brandy's not as terrible as she used to be. She's okay in the ring. Yes, but Britt Baker is, one of a kind. Like, she's top level, top tier talent in women's wrestling right now. Like I said earlier, she is the best character driven women's wrestler in the world, in my mind, period, right now.
Corey says, here we go for the main event. Jada was saying, so great to have Joe in a ring again. Indeed, he's back. He's been cleared and he's ready to wrestle full time. Jada also says she's not Eva Marie terrible, but she ain't great.
Eva Marie had a workable match last night. Like, it wasn't great, but that match was bearable. She didn't do anything terrible.
She literally just beat the shit out of a doll. Where's Scarlett?
She hasn't been around for a while. This whole feud, she hasn't been around much since they brought him up. That's interesting. I haven't seen her since they brought him up to Raw.
Are they kayfabing a loss here by having Scarlett be the sort of the power behind him? It seems like they're kayfabing the loss.
Hey, Tom, the crowd is asking the same question you are. We want Scarlett.
Here's the issue, and this is a big issue. It's been made very clear to all wrestling fans that no one actually gives much of a shit about Karrion Kross. They don't. They care about Scarlett. And this is why I feel it's vital to get Karrion Kross away from Scarlett, because we could be looking at the next Mark Mero.
Oh, God.
Genuinely saying that. We could be looking at the next Mark Mero. Kevin Nash once said, if your entire storyline is built around never losing, you better have something ready for when you lose. Karrion Kross didn't have anything ready for when he lost. He didn't have anything ready for when he lost Scarlett. The fans just aren't going to shut up about it.
You want to know
something? They need to establish him independently, but I don't know if the fans will allow that. And that, for me, is the beginning of the end.
You want to know something that will take a little bit of the mystique away from Karrion Kross or Killer Kross?
Oh, yeah, sure.
His name is Kevin.
Kevin Kross.
Kevin Kross.
Yep.
Nothing takes the mystique away by thinking of this badass killer dude and then thinking, Kevin.
To be fair, I'm yet to be sold by the guy, to be completely honest. I've seen him booked to dominate. I've never really seen a great match from the guy as of yet. He's booked to dominate. But I'm waiting to see better. I'm waiting to see more. It's the booking that's the issue at the moment.
Powerhouse and dominant for intangibles for Joe.
That's exactly what Raquel Gonzalez had.
We know how much Tom loves the intangibles.
It's exactly what Raquel Gonzalez had. Striker and judo grappler. Ugh. Megan says, trying to find out who owns a trademark for Cole's ring name. Everything I can find points to WWE owning it. Ooh, that's bad. If he can't get his name, that would be an issue.
Chugs.
Jadeb says, as the crowd keeps chanting, where is Scarlett? I don't think he would ever wrestle under Chugs. Not a good thing to hear the crowd chanting that. Not a good thing at all. Megan says, Brandy last wrestled in October last year. So actually not as long as I thought. No. Brillman is here saying good evening. Welcome, Brillman. Hope you're enjoying NXT Takeover tonight. Bailey says, speaking of Eva Marie's match, where do each of you position Alexa Bliss going forward from this point? I think she's going to be lined up against Charlotte. I hope she drops all of this spooky bullshit and just wrestles against Nikki Cross for a little bit. Or breaks Nikki Cross. That'd be cool. Brillman says, just finished my broadcast. For those who don't know, Brillman does stream League of Legends. Looks like you are still going. We are. It looks like we'll be here for another 20 minutes or so for the main event. Jadeb says, I don't know what the big problem is with her coming to the ring with him, NXT or WWE. I think it's because the WWE know that if she keeps coming to the ring with him, it will actually bury him. That's genuinely a thing that can happen.
I.e., like you said, Mark Mero.
Mark Mero, yeah. Mark Merrow kept coming to the ring with Sable, and by the end of it, nobody gave a fuck about Mark Merrow, so he left.
Well, I mean,
He was good too.
The Mark Merrow thing also is that Vince didn't want Mark Merrow. Vince wanted Johnny B. Bad.
Yeah.
Which he couldn't have because he didn't own it.
Yep, which is of course why he owns everyone's names now. It's a wonderful, wonderful insight, but I think I've said for a while when Karrion Kross first came, he's not the prize. Scarlett was the prize. Scarlett was the one they wanted. Mike and Maria Kanellis. They didn't want Mike Kanellis. Maria is the one they wanted. Maria was the prize. Unfortunately, with the WWE, they tend not to just offer the woman that they want a job. They offer the couple a job. One of the few exceptions to that, of course, was Aleister Black, but you know how that ended.
Very true. The one thing I would say about Kross is a talented wrestler in general.
Yeah.
Oh, cocaine in a clutch.
Dangerous suplex. Megan says, I just find it odd that a gorgeous blonde woman is intentionally being kept off WWE TV, although I wasn't around for the mirror stuff, so I'm learning about that now. Yep, that's essentially, it's very anti-WWE to just look at someone like Scarlett and say, no, we don't want you. Not the way they do things. Now, Thank you very much for the gift subscription as well, Brillman. Very much appreciate that. That has gone to El Great Hector. Thank you very much for the gift sub. Oh, very much appreciate it.
I mean, granted, WWE is not intentionally not using Scarlett. They're just waiting to bring her back to the way they want. I'm assuming they're arguing with her about her attire because I'm sure they want her. She's been relatively covered up in NXT. And I have a feeling Vince is going to want to see a touch more. And I think he's going to want a little less PVC latex in her attire on the main roster.
There has been chatter. Nothing conclusive, nothing definitive. There has been chatter that Scarlett that we have in NXT is not necessarily the Scarlett that Vince wants in WWE. There has also been chatter of this about Candice LeRae. Now, there has been no chatter about it being, physical or anything like that. But it's actually Vince pushing the idea he doesn't want women managing men in a couple variety because he thinks it diminishes the female performer. He wanted Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae to come up to the main roster a while back, but he wanted them both to be actively wrestling, and in NXT, they don't. They brought in Scarlett knowing that she can wrestle, with the plan that she would wrestle. They did the same with Zelina Vega, but she never wrestled. They never booked her to wrestle. It's one of those things where they've seen too often the same thing happen. They give you two wrestlers, and you write a male wrestler and a lackey. It's an issue that Vince has with the writing team, but it's also an issue that Vince has with Scarlett. It's a bit about portrayal as well. So I think he wants Scarlett to wrestle, but he doesn't want them to work independently because he's worried that if Scarlett works independently, no one's going to give a fuck about Karrion Kross. Which they don't. So it makes sense to me.
I was going to say, I kind of glad that she's not doing the smoke show gimmick in WWE.
It's not a WWE-centric gimmick, unfortunately.
No, but I mean, I'm just surprised that it's not been brought up by anybody backstage, considering she seems to be all for doing that style of gimmick.
Oh no, she's brought it up.
Okay.
Yeah, she's brought it up. She's happy presenting herself in that way, and all power to her if that's how she wants to present herself. The WWE aren't really for that because they're a PG product.
As long as she's bringing it up, that's the better side of it, right? Like, if it's going to come from one side or the other, at least if it's coming from her, it's better off than the other way around.
Scarlett is very happy with the character that she created, and she wants to continue to live it. She's extremely happy with that portrayal of herself, and she views it as a way of essentially reclaiming female sexuality, which, yeah, fair enough.
And honestly, if I looked like her, I'd want to do that too. Let's be honest. If I had the body to pull off a gimmick like that, I'd want to do it. Oh.
Wait for a power slam.
Okay. Hold on.
Just wait for it.
Oh, GG. Oh, his head. Oh.
Yeah.
Poor Kevin's head.
Okay, it's been waved off. It looks like he's fine, but Joe doesn't seem confident. Joe knows something about head injuries after all.
Yeah, he's literally telling the ref the head.
Yeah. Not quite. Not quite.
Okay,
Anyway,
well,
let's catch
apparently
up.
he's not.
Moxie says, why do they want Scarlett so much? They probably want her because she's hot. I think we've mostly answered that. They want her as a wrestler. She just also happens to be hot, which is basically what we should be doing nowadays. You should be hiring great wrestlers, and if they happen to be very attractive people, then they're very attractive people, and you can use that to market as well.
And Grant, I just want to say that was her gimmick. Like, the her being hot thing, like, we're saying it, but it's a gimmick that she's put on the indies, and she's put on in AAA, and she's put on an Impact. Like, this is a gimmick she is completely built and fully capable doing, and it's the gimmick that she wants to portray. So when we sit here, we're not trying to objectify her in any way, shape, or form. Yes, they want her because she's an attractive woman, and that brings eyes to a television. That being said, it's a gimmick that she adores in her own mind.
Gonna have to have a little correction there. We are objectifying Scarlett because her character is based around choosing to have people objectify her.
Okay, well,
that's the smoke show.
I mean, I'm saying it in a way like we're not answering Ray Pillow's questions that Ray Pillow would ask that got him banned.
But there's a very simple reason for that. One, completely different presentation. We're saying someone is attractive. There's a very different thing between what Ray Pillow was saying.
No,
you
I
can
agree.
objectively look at someone saying, I find that person attractive. We do it to men all the time as well in this, because that's not objectifying someone. That's saying someone is attractive. Also, if someone wants to be objectified, there is no issue personally with that. If you're in a relationship with someone, you may at times look at them as a sexual object in the same way, because ultimately, if you're in a sexual relationship, that's a healthy part of it. It's about human sexuality. The vast majority of people have a sexuality. We shouldn't be shaming women for having it. Now, in no ways am I suggesting that's what we're doing, but I think that's the beauty of the smoke show character. It's a reclamation of that sexuality, and being able to say, this is me, this is who I am. You can't shame me for this because I'm proud of who I am. That's why I like the Scarlett character. Agreed. I think there should be more of it in both men's and women's wrestling, because sexuality is part of your identity. And if you want personality and identity in wrestling, you can do better than those whole relationship angles that they've done in the past. You really can. So having someone who's just open about the fact that she likes how she looks, I have nothing but respect for it.
Yeah, agreed.
Megan says, I just hope Scarlett isn't being body shamed for being confident in herself and embracing that aspect of herself. To my knowledge, no, but naturally, as I say, I'm just hearing whispers about it, to be honest. Corey says, this might be a question for Ed, but you could probably answer this. You guys think they are... do you think they're using Samoa Joe better at NXT than they did in the main roster?
I mean, I don't know why I'm better at answering this. Maybe because
you watch NXT regularly.
True, but I mean, putting him in the ring is the best light for Samoa Joe. They were doing a fine job with Samoa Joe when they brought him up to the main roster and had him as Triple H's vindictive enforcer, and then he got hurt. And then they had him in a match with Brock Lesnar, and it was fantastic on a pay-per-view with the most dumb name in the world, Great Balls of Fire.
Still love it.
And it was a great match, and it was fantastic. Every time Samoa Joe is in the ring, they've never misused him on the main roster. The problem is Joe is unfortunately injury prone to a slight extent. He gets himself concussions because he wrestles a certain way. He gets little knocks and nicks that WWE doesn't feel comfortable running him out with, because nowadays they're worrying about protecting the talent long term than they are making sure they get their matches out of him. If Samoa Joe had done this 10 years ago, he'd be out there with concussions and he'd be a main event champion on the main roster, no questions asked, and he'd be at the same level as Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar and all of these guys, because they would have just run him out there, concussion or no concussion, slight injury or no slight injury. There's no misuse of Samoa Joe yet. I apologize.
No need to apologize. I completely agree with all of that. Literally completely agree. There has been no misuse of Samoa Joe in WWE on any section. The problem is, very much as you say, he goes so far, then he gets injured. The WWE are nervous to give him that top level run because he keeps getting injured. And it's just bad luck. It's genuinely just bad luck. But he should be able to get away with it a little bit differently in NXT. That's a bit of blood on the lip.
I mean, remember, his latest concussion, the one that put him out and put him on the commentary table,
Was a
from a
commercial.
production shoot for a commercial.
Yep. It's just bad luck. It is pure bad luck. Hopefully in NXT he'll get away from a lot of that. Omegatron says, I think we need an Ed versus Tom feud. Book it, Vince. Absolutely not. We get on here. We're a tag team. Jada says he was even great as a commentator, in my opinion. I think that's a universal opinion, to be honest. He was fantastic. Moxie has asked, why would Scarlett get body shamed? Because people are dicks, basically.
People don't like it when hot... Oh, God.
Yeah. You don't know. You just remove the word hot.
Okay.
People don't like it when women...
When attractive women go out
there and remove the word attractive.
Okay.
People don't like it when women are happy about their bodies.
Okay, that works. See, this is why you're the professional, and I'm still learning.
Megan's nailed it. Confident women get body shamed just for existing.
There you go.
It's got nothing to do with attraction. It's got nothing to do with the look. It is entirely to do with the fact that for centuries, men have controlled women's bodies, and they're trying to keep hold of it.
Oh, Muscle Buster. By the way, the Muscle Buster's back. That's impressive.
I'm glad to see it.
And there it is.
We have a brand new NXT champion, a clean win. Samoa Joe seems genuinely stunned.
3 titles changed hands.
Wait, no, come on. I've seen Samoa Joe's been holding his head and looking out of it for a long time since that power slam early on. I worry now that he might have hit his head.
Uh-oh. First match back and he concussed himself again?
He keeps closing his eyes. He looks like something's wrong with his bell. I think he's okay. I'm going to hope he's okay. Anyway, Megan says, I think if there are still some concerns about Joe's health, the lighter NXT schedule is better, as there's more time for rest and NXT being taped does him a favor, allows him to work better around any future injury. Mm-hmm. All absolutely true. This is one of the reasons Ciampa wants to stay in NXT, of course. And it's definitely right. I completely agree. Jada says, I was just going to say he looks not right. Yeah, I really, really hope he's not hurt. I really hope he's not hurt. Oh, that would just be horrible. Megan says, men still do have way more power over women than they should. Just look at all the stuff with regulating reproductive health. Don't even get me started on toxic masculinity and assets using religion as a form of societal subjugation. Yeah, and that basically is it. Moxie, I know you're quite a young person. You may not have experienced this much in your life. Unfortunately, it does happen. And it's something that I personally wasn't that experienced with because obviously straight white male, I'm very privileged. And I do recommend you can do some research on the subject. There are lots of people who have openly shared their experiences, and there's a lot that can be learned about it. That is our NXT Takeover. It is done. We have new champion, 2 new champions. In fact, 3?
3. Cameron Grimes.
Of course, $1 Million Championship. I keep forgetting it's an actual championship.
Every title changed hands.
Nope, women's.
I'm sorry, women's title did not change hands.
3 new champions. Samoa Joe, as expected, new champion. Raquel Gonzalez, sort of as expected, retained. NXT UK Championship changing hands. That was a shock to me, but maybe not to regular viewers. In the meantime, Ed, I believe you are hosting a Love Wrestling show.
I am. I'm going to be going over to Love Wrestling. We are trying to figure out right now what our start time is going to be. I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere around 10:45, 11 o'clock. I know there are no raid options tonight. I apologize.
No, it's fine. There are options out there. I'm trying to add a few more people after all.
I was going to say, we should see who is out there.
I'm just going to say, if you want to wrap up and head off to sort that out, Ed, I'd appreciate that. You do your wrap up, then I'll do mine.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to, as Tom says, jump out and try to jump in the Slack and figure out when we're going to do this show. Thank you all for joining us. Keep joining Tom. He is the most fantastic person I've ever met. It is the most ironic meeting in the world. It really was a one-off irony type of thing. Just be kind to everybody and have a great night, and I'll be in the chat tomorrow.
Have a great time, mate. Have a great
You
show,
too.
and I'll see you next time.
All right, bye-bye.
And that is going to be our show. Let's see what raid options we have as a possibility. A number of live channels. Get the tables are on. Insiders are on. But what I did get, literally as I left yesterday, was a raid from Up NXT podcast, and they are doing a watch along now rather than a breakdown, so I can't give it to them. Let's give it to the Insiders. Insiders Pro Wrestling. Let's send it their way. They're currently streaming 22 people. Let's boost their numbers a little bit. So, /raid. Insiders Pro Wrestling. Let's go say hi to them, and then we'll wrap up for the night. Megan says, even as a cis white woman, I've dealt with so much crap just for being a woman, as with pretty much every other woman I know. Indeed, every other woman I know as well. It's absolutely horrifying when you actually get down into the detail of it. It's inescapable, and that is a terrible, terrible thing. But it is still a thing, unfortunately. Corey got all his predictions right. Well done, Corey. Ed, of course, joined you in that as well. Megan says, back to the show. I think this makes Joe the first three-time NXT champion, doesn't it? Yes, it does. He, of course, beat Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, and now Karrion Kross for the championships. If you're watching on Twitch, we are about to raid Insiders Pro Wrestling and wrap it there. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much. We will just be closing the stream for it. Thank you, everyone who has joined, everyone who has chatted. We will see you tomorrow for Spoiler Warning, 10 p.m. UK, 5 p.m. EST. I've been Tom Colohue. Everybody have a great night.